Chapter 881. Yi Qinghan didn't care about that secret technique. Instead, he picked up the high-grade restriction and flipped through it. When he flipped to the middle and saw that there was indeed an escape technique, his whole body relaxed. After carefully reading the introduction of the escape technique, Yi Qinghan started to get excited. There was an introduction on it. As long as one comprehended this secret technique, one would be able to escape instantly. Even a supremacy's divine sense wouldn't be able to detect it, unless it was a soul cultivator at the supremacy level or a monarch level. Yi Qinghan was very clear about the supremacies of the Star Sea. He had once discussed with Mo Xiao and Xiao Lihe that none of them were soul cultivators. There were only 3 soul cultivators at the supremacy level in the entire divine realm, but none in the Star Sea. Wait, isn't this a restriction? How did it become a secret technique? As he flipped through it, Yi Qinghan suddenly realized something. Wasn't this a high-grade restriction? How did it become a secret technique? What else was a secret technique? He had only heard of secrets, secret techniques, and secret manuals. This was the first time he had heard of a secret technique. Yi Qinghan pondered for a while and then decided to memorize the entire secret technique and slowly comprehend it. This time it didn't take long. In just 1 month, Yi Qinghan had memorized everything. At the same time, he also understood why this escape technique wasn't called an escape restriction. According to the high-grade restriction, actually, in this world, all methods that could attack, defend, and generate various abilities were called restrictions in ancient times. There were 2 ways for martial artists to generate various abilities. First, martial artists used their own strength to generate various abilities. This was the ancient Chun's secret technique, such as divine force attacks or soul attacks. Second, martial artists used external objects to attack, defend, and so on. This was called a secret technique. However, the people of the divine realm liked to call the second type of secret technique as a restriction. For example, the barriers of every city, the violent lightning that killed Emperor Yuan in Sealed God Valley, and the heavy pressure that Yi Qinghan used to make the white-browed venerable unable to lift his head. These were all restrictions, but in the ancient times, they were called secret techniques because they borrowed the power of external objects. According to the books, many people in ancient times preferred to use all kinds of secret techniques. They borrowed external objects, the power of heaven and earth, and all kinds of magical things to trigger all kinds of magical abilities. But now, martial artists paid more attention to their own cultivation, allowing themselves to reach a very powerful level, thereby allowing the laws of heaven and earth to bestow them with all kinds of mystical powers. For example, the power of origin, teleportation, and willpower. Of course, Yi Qinghan preferred to focus more on his own cultivation. Borrowing external objects was never the way to go. But at this moment, he had no choice but to come into contact with external objects. So, he chose to start comprehending the escape secret technique. The principle behind the evasion technique was very simple. The general idea was to use various methods to distort the space around one's body. Or, it could also be said to form an invisible barrier around one's body so that the enemy's divine sense would not be able to detect it, thus achieving the goal of concealment. The principle was simple, but when Yi Qinghan tried to comprehend it, he frowned deeply. It was easy to distort space, vibrate space, and even create some small cracks in space. However, it was very difficult to distort the space to a certain degree. Furthermore, if one were to stand on the spot without moving, it would be meaningless whether one could hide or not. If one wanted to move at high speed and still maintain the evasion technique, it would be extremely difficult. I only need 10 heart formation stones. That's easy. The Star Stone is currently the best heart formation stone in the immortal realm. But the divine power released from the body needs to be released at the same time, and it needs to be released continuously according to 108 different patterns. Moreover, the divine sense needs to take shape and mediate in the middle. It seems that to successfully cultivate this evasion technique, I'm afraid it will take a lot of time. Moreover, to be proficient in using it, I'm afraid I'll have to practice it hundreds of millions of times, right? If one's soul isn't strong, they'll probably go crazy from cultivating it. Yi Qinghan sighed inwardly. This thing was indeed not something an ordinary person could cultivate. But he did not retreat. He had always liked to become stronger when he met strong opponents, let alone in the current situation where he had no other way out. Without thinking too much, he directly left the War Imperial Hall. Then, he transmitted a message to the Wind Emperor and immediately entered a state of soul stillness. He started to comprehend, simulate, and experiment. With the evasion technique, at least his safety could be guaranteed. With his safety guaranteed, he could think of a way to take revenge. What was worth mentioning was that after 4 years of cultivation, the intensity of Yi Qinghan's soul was beyond Yi Qinghan's estimation. It still hadn't reached the second level of God-King realm. Yi Qinghan's soul had reached 2/3 of the first level of God-King realm. Now, after 4 years of continuous growth, and with the help of the Soul Jade, he was still a little bit away from reaching the second level of God-King realm. It was clear that it was really hard to improve the soul. However, Yi Qinghan didn't find it strange. If it was easy to improve the soul defense divine tool wouldn't be so precious in the divine world. Soul cultivators had the soul stillness great technique. Otherwise, if they wanted to improve their soul with treasures and spirit fruits, it would be as difficult as reaching the sky. Xiaohe cultivated diligently. Day and night, he refined the soul fruits that Lord Devourer gave him. But after so many years and nearly 100 fruits, the intensity of his soul was still not as strong as Yi Qinghan's. This made Xiaohe very depressed. But this time, Xiaohe acted out of character and didn't come out to play. He made up his mind that he wouldn't come out until he finished refining the soul fruits. The mysterious spirit cave abode became safer with the help of the 3 spies. Although there were people who came to search occasionally, the 3 spies sent the news in advance. Wind Emperor and the rest immediately deployed. As a result, the spies became stronger and stronger. The soul slaves in Wu Shan's hands also increased. 2 years later, the search in the South Sea of Star Sea started to weaken. Li Kong was very clear that the myriad God Caves terrain was too complicated. Such a search would definitely not find anything. Only a portion of the people were withdrawn. But the spies still covered the entire Star Sea. Li Tian stayed quietly in the Peach Blossom Lodge, waiting for news from the Star Sea, waiting for news from the Fire Dragon Plain. The Flame Dragon continent became more prosperous than before. Because of the existence of Tsang City, no one dared to make a move. Yi Qingyu, Yi Qingwu, Yi Tianlong, and the rest all refined the God Emperor's divine crystal. Although the martial artists who refined the divine crystal were not strong, a God Emperor was a God Emperor. No one in the Flame Dragon continent could contend against them. Especially after the news that Yi Qinghan built a city in the divine realm and had countless experts as subordinates spread, Yi Qinghan was even conferred as the only true god by the people of the continent. Without the disaster of war, everyone lived a prosperous and peaceful life. The return of Yu Qingcheng and the rest made the people of the continent more interested in martial arts. Song City had ordered that as long as one reached a certain realm, they would be bestowed with spiritual herbs, spiritual fruits, divine pills, divine weapons, and so on. In the future, after Yi Qinghan settled the matters in the divine realm, he would bring the divine realm's martial artists to the Flame Dragon City, cultivating to become a true god, then roaming the divine realm like the Frost Arch. Just like the Frost Arch, the 2 words Flame Dragon would resound throughout the entire divine realm. This became the most noble goal of every Flame Dragon citizen. Of course, other than Song City, there was another sacred ground in the continent. Or rather, it was a forbidden ground, the Dark Forest. Song City had long given the order that no one was allowed to venture 10,000 miles into the Dark Forest, or they would be the enemy of Song City. In the depths of the Dark Forest, there was a dark castle. The castle was very beautiful and huge. However, such a huge castle had not been inhabited for a long time. There was only a snow-white rabbit that liked to sleep under the grape trellis. The rabbit was snow-white, without a single strand of mixed hair. It curled up under the grape trellis with its eyes tightly shut. From afar, it looked like a snowball. Suddenly, at this moment, the rabbit opened its eyes abruptly and looked straight at the sky. Its ruby-like eyes emitted a cold intent. At this moment, the entire dark castle stopped blowing. At the same time, the back mountain of the Yi family, the Cold Heart Pavilion, the Demon God Mountain, the Barbarian God Mountain, and everywhere else in the continent. Countless God Realm warriors flew out from the mansions and caves where they were cultivating. All of them looked at the sky with stern faces. The sky was cloudless, and the sun was high in the sky. However, in the next second, a massive black hole appeared. Countless warriors with intimidating auras flew out of the black hole, coldly scanning the flame dragon continent. They were like the Grim Reaper's messengers that appeared from the cold void, ready to capture people's souls. The Divine Realm's warriors are here. They are all 7th grade war gods. Yu Qingcheng didn't show any panic on her face, but she was anxious. She teleported directly, appearing on the castle in the dark forest. She said to the rabbit that was emitting a cold aura, "Madam, please send a message to Lord Devour, or else the flame dragon continent will be finished." Chapter 882. I got it. The snow-white rabbit's mouth twitched, but it didn't show any emotion. Its eyes were cold. After saying a few words, it quieted down. "My lord!" Yu Qingcheng was worried. She couldn't maintain her transcendent aura anymore. She said hurriedly, "Can Lord Devour come back in time?" "You should go back." The rabbit didn't answer her. It said faintly with an unquestionable tone, "Go back and tell the members of the Yi family castle not to send messages to Yi Qinghan." Yu Qingcheng was surprised. She had never seen this rabbit before. However, Lord Devour appeared after he went to the god world. It didn't have any demonic energy or god energy, just like an ordinary rabbit. However, its tone was exactly the same as Lord Devour's, overbearing. Yu Qingcheng had no choice but to teleport back. She hurriedly gave instructions to everyone and sent a message to Elder Lu of the Carefree Pavilion, asking him to close the door here. This way, even if the Flame Dragon continent was destroyed, no one would be able to trace it back to Yi Qinghan from the Carefree Pavilion. More and more warriors appeared in the sky. All of them were 7th grade war gods. There were more than 20 of them, and more were coming. The brutal aura shrouded the entire Fire Dragon continent. Billions of residents of the Fire Dragon continent looked at the black gate in the sky in bewilderment. They didn't understand why the Fire Dragon continent was so powerful now. Why did creatures from the alien planes still dare to come here? However, they weren't afraid. They thought that as long as their true god was here, those creatures from the alien planes couldn't hurt them. They weren't afraid. All the god realm experts of the continent were scared. Yi Qinghan had brought back a lot of divine crystals, which helped the Emperor Realm and Saint Realm warriors who didn't have the potential to break through to the god realm. In recent years, thanks to Yi Qinghan's elixirs, some warriors who had comprehended the principle had become god realm. However, they all felt that even if all the experts of the continent joined hands, they wouldn't be able to defeat one of them. Swoosh! Countless god-tier warriors started to teleport towards the back mountain of the Yi family. At this moment, they knew that only the sacred land of the continent, Song City, could save them. The 7th grade war god in the sky paid no attention to the god-level warriors on the continent who were teleporting here and there. He only looked at the warriors on the continent with disdain, as if he was looking at a group of ants. You really think highly of us? They actually dispatched 37th grade war gods, and 5 of them were at the peak of 7th grade. Are these people planning to destroy the Flame Dragon plane? Yi Tianlong looked at Yi Qingyo and Yi Baihu bitterly. Although they could all refine divine crystals to become god emperors like them could be killed with a flick of a finger. They were not on the same level. Right now, there were already several tens of divine-level cultivators gathered at the back of the mountain. However, so what if there were 10 billion heavenly gods at their level? They didn't dare place their hopes on Yi Qinghan. Even if the rabbit didn't, he would still get Elder Lu to close the portal. Now, he could only count on the White Rabbit to send a message to the divine world, and then Lord Devour would come back. But would Lord Devour come back? Could he come back so soon? The answer was no. When those 7th grade war gods, who were shrouded in black armor and whose faces couldn't be seen clearly, all teleported to the sky above Song City, those experts didn't say anything. They released their divine power and smashed down on Song City with their giant hands. Lord Devour still didn't show up. Instead, it was a rabbit. Many god-level warriors recognized this rabbit. It was the white rabbit that was sleeping on the dark castle. At this moment, the white rabbit suddenly released a snow-white god's domain, which enveloped the entire Song City. Then, a pair of ruby-like eyes shot out beams of red light. They were as fast as lightning, and many people couldn't even see them clearly. How powerful were the energy attacks of 27th grade war gods? Even the protective shield built by the Flame Dragon City couldn't withstand dozens of rounds of attacks from these people. However, under the snow-white protective shield of the rabbit, countless sparks blossomed above Song City. Although it was daytime, it was extremely beautiful. A cloud rose above Song City. Countless hills and ancient trees outside Song City were instantly razed to the ground, and thick smoke billowed. However, when the smoke settled, the snow-white protective shield still shrouded the sky above Song City. Song City still stood there, and the beautiful Song City formed a sharp contrast with the apocalyptic scenery outside. Countless god-level warriors in the mountain behind the Yi family opened their eyes wide, and their mouths were wide open. Their expressions were as if they had just seen the funniest joke in the world. Even Peach Blossom, who had seen many things, couldn't believe his eyes as he looked at the ordinary-looking rabbit. In the next second, something even more bizarre happened. The 7th grade war gods in the sky started to fall to the ground one by one like falling dust, like kites with broken strings. They floated down, leaving behind a pile of divine crystals and spatial rings, which glittered in the air. There were many country bumpkins in the Flame Dragon continent, but there was no lack of people who had seen the world. For example, Yu Qingcheng and the other 3, and Peach Blossom. Thousands of warriors gathered outside Flame Dragon City. Later on, many venerables appeared, and 2 of the most powerful 9th grade war gods appeared. Although Yu Qingcheng and the others later entered the War Imperial Palace, they had heard the details of the grand occasion. Peach Blossom was at the God King realm, and his father was a venerable whose name shook the Star Sea. However, they couldn't figure out what was going on. It wasn't difficult to block the energy attacks of 37th grade war gods, and even a venerable could do it. However, to kill 37th grade war gods at the same time, even an ordinary venerable couldn't do it, right? Moreover, no one had ever seen or heard of this rabbit's methods. How powerful was this rabbit? Venerable? Soul cultivator? 9th grade? The rabbit didn't give an answer and disappeared in a flash, along with the divine crystals and spatial rings in the sky. The apocalyptic crisis was over, but no one could have imagined that it was an ordinary-looking rabbit that saved the people of the continent in the end. Send a message to Yi Qinghan and tell him what happened here. Also, tell him that I'm protecting this place, and he can do whatever he wants. The rabbit sent a strange message at the end. Originally, it asked Yu Qingcheng not to tell Yi Qinghan, and now it wanted to tell him. Divine World, Soul Devourer Manor, City Master's Mansion Rooftop. Lord Devourer stood indifferently in the pavilion on the rooftop. The sea breeze messed up his black hair, fluttered his fiery red skirt, and revealed his curvaceous body. Nine-tailed Fox stood quietly behind him, not knowing why Lord Devourer opened the protective cover of the rooftop and wanted to enjoy the wind. Audio, you don't know, but someone dared to send dozens of 7th grade war gods to our hometown and attempted to destroy the world. Lord Devourer suddenly opened his mouth, startling Nine-tailed Fox. Her eyes were immediately filled with anxiety, anger, and worry. However, when she recalled that Lord Devourer was still standing there quietly, and that although there was anger in his tone, he was still calm, she assumed that he had already dealt with it. Thus, she didn't talk, continuing to look at Lord Devourer, waiting for him to continue. Lord Devourer liked Lady Jiu a lot because she was a good listener, standing at the peak of the warriors. Lord Devourer had a lot of things to say, but no one could tell him. It was lonely at the top, and all emperors were lonely. Lord Devourer kept silent for a while, then continued, "Unfortunately, they're all dead. They wanted to force Yi Qinghan out, so I gave them what they wanted. However, I think the one they forced out would be Yi Qinghan, the one that the entire Star Sea is afraid of. Let's wait and see. The Star Sea is going to be really lively and fun." Lady Jiu couldn't help but ask, "My lord, I don't understand one thing. Why do you have so much confidence in Yi Qinghan? Do you really believe that Yi Qinghan can resist the entire Star Sea alone? To be honest, I don't have faith in him." Lord Devourer lifted his head, looking at the sky. "I have faith in the Soul Emperor and the Master of the Apotheosis Valley. How could the descendant chosen by the two eccentrics be ordinary? Although Yi Qinghan can't resist the Star Sea now, one day, he will make the Star Sea tremble." Chapter 883. Stellar Sea Peach Blossom Island. Li Tian had been living on the island for a long time, but there was still no news of Yi Qinghan. At the same time, there was no news from the Flame Dragon continent either. Li Tian could no longer sit still. He let Peach Blossom Venerable continue the search while he led his men to the southwest region of the Stellar Sea. There were not many islands in the southwest region of the Stellar Sea. There was only one main island and some smaller islands. But at this moment, countless experts had gathered in the southwest region of the Stellar Sea. More than 10 venerables had come, and these venerables were from different continents. The Soul Emperor Pavilion had reopened after 10,000 years. The Soul Emperor was the most legendary person in the divine realm in the past 1,000,000 years. He was a soul-devouring beast, and his strength was at the peak of Grade 7. But with a treasure, he could suppress Grade 8 venerables. He had endless wealth, and his treasures were as many as a mountain. He was an artifact refiner. The fury of the dancing butterfly was successfully refined by him. Moreover, he loved adventure. He explored the myriad god cave below the Stellar Sea the most, and went to many mystic realms that many people in the divine realm had never heard of. He and the Misty Monarch were sworn brothers, and he was a guest of the Grace Monarch. He also had a good relationship with several monarchs. He was the undisputed #1 God Emperor in the divine realm. Of course, this #1 God Emperor did not include venerables and invincible war gods, but his status was definitely higher than the venerables. Unfortunately, he died in the end. He placed all of his treasures in the Soul Emperor Pavilion. He also set up restrictions that forbade those above Grade 5 from entering. If they forced their way in, the Soul Emperor Pavilion would self-destruct. The Misty Monarch and several other monarchs respected his dying wish and sent several venerables to guard the Soul Emperor Island. Although there were amazing treasures inside, only the fated could obtain them. The Soul Emperor Pavilion opened once every 10,000 years and could be entered with the Soul Emperor's sword. Each sword could allow 3 people to enter for a maximum of 3 years. There were many treasures in the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Over the years, countless transcendent grade divine artifacts had appeared. There were also countless other mystical treasures. Most importantly, there were 9 levels of the Soul Emperor Pavilion. Until now, no one had been able to enter the 8th and 9th levels. Just the 7th floor alone was already filled with such treasures. No one dared to imagine what would be in the last 2 floors. 11 of the 12 divine swords had been unearthed. Among them, the Star Sea had obtained 3, the Ethereal Continent had obtained 3, and the other continents had obtained 1 each. There was also a divine sword that had been unearthed. It was with Yi Qinghan, but Yi Qinghan had no intention of participating in the treasure hunt, nor did he have the time to do so. Of course, he did not dare to do so at this moment. He had been in seclusion all this time, comprehending the escape secret technique. The principle behind the secret technique was very simple. Yi Qinghan's comprehension speed was also very fast. However, he had been in seclusion for a few years now, yet he was still in seclusion. The Wind Emperor sat beside him. Because of the Soul Emperor Pavilion's treasure hunt, the Stellar Sea's search had weakened even further. It was safe to stay in the profound spirit cave abode, but it was a little boring. He did not know what Yi Qinghan was comprehending. He also didn't think that Yi Qinghan could make any big breakthrough in a short period of time. Thus, he asked Tianqun and the rest to stand guard at the side while he went into seclusion. The Wind Emperor did not understand, but Tianqun's face was full of hope. He saw with his own eyes that Yi Qinghan used the power source to kill the powerful monster in this cave abode. He did not know where Yi Qinghan's power source came from, but the more strange Yi Qinghan was, the more excited he was. He had an inexplicable anticipation in his heart. Perhaps Yi Qinghan would make a big breakthrough and then slaughter in the stellar sea, so that they could also feel proud. Suddenly, Tianqun's eyes lit up because he realized that Yi Qinghan's body was emitting countless divine powers. These divine powers revolved around his body in a strange trajectory. Then, Yi Qinghan suddenly disappeared in front of his eyes. Just when he thought that Yi Qinghan had entered the War Imperial Palace, his eyes suddenly opened and he exclaimed, startling everyone in the small hall. Tianqun quickly turned his head in disbelief and found that Yi Qinghan was indeed standing not far behind him, his face full of excitement. Teleportation? Tianqun cried out in horror. Yi Qinghan was still in the Divine King realm, but he had the power source. Now he could actually teleport? Was this master going to defy the heavens? All of you, lock onto me with your divine senses. See if you can find me. Yi Qinghan's body emitted countless divine powers again. These divine powers revolved around his body quickly, and then his body disappeared in the air again. It was silent and very strange. The Wind Emperor and the others finally came to their senses. They spread out their divine senses, but still could not find Yi Qinghan. Finally, they saw Yi Qinghan's body suddenly appear in the hall outside. Master, didn't he enter the War Imperial Palace? He can teleport? That's not right. The speed of teleportation shouldn't be so slow, right? What's going on? The Wind Emperor was in a daze. He exchanged glances with everyone else before they all rushed into the hall. Were you able to lock onto me with your divine senses just now? Yi Qinghan looked at the crowd and asked immediately. After a few years of enlightenment, the evasion mystic technique had reached the great accomplishment stage. Now, he was eager to know the effect of this thing. This was something that he had been studying for nearly a decade. We can't lock onto you. Master, how did you do it? Before the Wind Emperor could speak, Yi Qinghan already knew the answer when he saw the crowd's expression. He rubbed his hands together and said angrily, The evasion mystic technique has reached the great accomplishment stage. It's time for the stellar sea to collect some interest. Without explaining to the crowd, Yi Qinghan once again experimented in the Xianling cave abode. Although he knew this thing, he had to practice it to the point of perfection. Otherwise, if it suddenly failed, it would be fatal. After everyone's divine senses locked onto him, Yi Qinghan began to run around the cave abode. He revealed himself from time to time and hid himself from time to time. Without a moment's pause, he practiced nonstop. After practicing for a whole month and exploding dozens of star stones, Yi Qinghan finally stopped practicing. He finally confirmed some things. This evasion mystic technique was indeed undetectable by 7th grade war gods. As for 8th grade venerables, it was still uncertain. Each evasion mystic technique could last for a day. After a day, the energy of the star stones would be exhausted and explode. Currently, Yi Qinghan could maintain the evasion mystic technique without failure at half the speed. If the speed was too fast, he would lose control and fail the evasion mystic technique. But even so, it was enough to make the Wind Emperor and the others so shocked that their eyeballs fell to the ground. Although this thing was not as powerful as teleportation, it was also a sharp weapon for killing and escaping. Imagine a person following you, but you were unaware of it. Then this person suddenly attacked you. Could you dodge it? Fine, even if your mind sensed danger. But if he followed you, for example, when you were drinking or when you were having fun with a woman and suddenly attacked when your mind was at its most relaxed, could you block it? Master is in too much danger now. Tianqun secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Others might not know, but there were 3 people among them who clearly knew that Yi Qinghan possessed origin energy. If Yi Qinghan launched a sneak attack, Even if a venerable was slow in dodging or reacting, he would still die. A divine king realm warrior could actually kill a venerable in a second. That was too terrifying. Of course, Tianchen was only thinking about it. He also knew that it was unrealistic. A venerable possessed origin energy and could teleport. Once he sensed danger, he could immediately use origin energy to protect himself or teleport. Who could hurt him? Chapter 884. Do you know what's the heart formation stone that's even better than the star stone? Yi Qinghan was very satisfied with other aspects, but he was very dissatisfied with the fact that he could only hide for a day. His speed was very fast. Even at half his speed, he could travel 1,000,000 miles in a day. Although 1,000,000 miles was very far, supremacies could instantly teleport over. The stellar sea was unstable, and supremacies did not dare to teleport too far. But what if there were supremacies nearby? After he exchanged for the star stone, wouldn't he be dismembered? Wu Shan and the rest did not understand, but the Wind Emperor thought of one. There's one, the Dragon Blood Stone. The older, the better, but it's very difficult to buy. Ordinary places don't have it, but the War God Pavilion definitely has it. Master, you can ask Su Longxiang to buy it. Yi Qinghan immediately sent a message to Su Longxiang, asking him to come over and give him some divine stones to buy it. At the same time, he was prepared to practice here for a period of time to see if he could increase his speed when hiding. It would be safer this way. With everything planned, Yi Qinghan opened the Carefree Pavilion and prepared to contact Yi Qingwu and the rest to see the situation of the Fire Dragon Continent. But Elder Lu immediately sent a message. Yi Qinghan's expression changed instantly. The Fire Dragon Continent was under attack. Can you be more shameless? Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and shouted. Through the information from Su Longxiang and several spies, Yi Qinghan knew very well that the person in charge of this matter was not the Peach Blossom Venerable, but Li Tian of the Supreme Island. Previously, the Fire Dragon City was destroyed, and this time, the Fire Dragon Continent was under attack. Even if it was the Peach Blossom Venerable, he would not be able to do it. Needless to say, Li Tian and the Supreme Island were behind it. Yi Qinghan also felt a special meaning from the rabbit's words. Although this rabbit's strength surprised him, Yi Qinghan felt that it was Lord Devour who sent this message. I'll help you protect the rear, and you can do it boldly? Lord Devour is encouraging me to open fire? Now that the Flame Dragon Continent was safe and sound, and the rear had been stabilized, Yi Qinghan had nothing to worry about anymore. Since that's the case, let's open fire. Su Longxiang came very quickly. Recently, because Li Tian had gone to Seoul the Arch Island, the search had weakened. Therefore, he could easily sneak his way here. Yi Qinghan tossed him a nameless Godstone card, and the amount on the card caused Su Longxiang's body to tremble again. A month later, Su Longxiang brought back several hundred Dragon Bloodstones, but they were divided into two types. One was 1,000,000 years old, and the other was only 500,000 years old. Yi Qinghan immediately gave it a try and found that the 500,000-year-old Dragon Bloodstone could hide for 3 days, and the 1,000,000-year-old Dragon Bloodstone could hide for 10 days. After practicing in the cave for another 3 months, Yi Qinghan felt that his speed had already reached 2/3 of his full speed in the state of evading. He could not bear it any longer and immediately decided to set off. When they heard that Yi Qinghan was going to kill people for revenge, all the soul slaves fell silent. They did not agree with it. After all, although Yi Qinghan could hide, it was still very dangerous. However, as Yi Qinghan's soul slaves, they did not dare to raise any objections. City Lord, I think it's better for you to cultivate for a period of time. After all, it's safer that way. Wu Shan spoke and reminded tactfully. Yi Qinghan also knew that it was dangerous, but after cultivating for so many years, his soul had just broken through to the second level of God King realm. He did not know how many years it would take to break through to the God Arch realm. The Flame Dragon Continent was under attack, and he could not sit still anymore. It was as if there was a bone spike stuck in his throat, making him restless. If his thoughts were not clear and his heart could not calm down, how could he cultivate? He waved his hand and shouted, "You don't have to persuade me. If you want to go, follow me." Regardless of success or failure, Each of you will be a soul slave for 100,000 years. If you don't want to go, just stay here. I won't force you." Although Yi Qinghan said so, no one dared to not go. Firstly, without Yi Qinghan's spatial artifact, they would definitely not be able to escape. Secondly, if they went this time, they would be able to reduce their soul slave by 100,000 years. If they did not go, it was not impossible to infuriate Yi Qinghan and destroy their souls directly. After going to another small hall, Yi Qinghan kept the dozens of 6th-grade demonic beasts and the Wind Emperor and the rest into the War Emperor Palace. Then he escaped. As he escaped into the distance, he started to transmit his voice to Su Longxiang to find out the current situation of the Starseas personnel. The situation was quickly figured out. Because Li Tian had gone to Soul Emperor Island, the factions of the Southern Sea and the top 10 God Bandit groups had stopped their search. They only sent out some small teams to deal with the situation. The only ones who were still searching were the hundreds of thousands of Star Army that Li Kong transferred from the Supreme Island and the Nine Guardians Island. Of course, there were also the Peach Blossom Venerable subordinates. Star Army? Let's start with you. Since you want to kill me, then you should be prepared to be killed. Yi Qinghan quickly set his target. He would kill the army directly under Li Tian. This would make him lose more face and drive him crazy. Yi Qinghan did not dare to advance under the sea. Evading martial artists could not detect him. If the demonic beasts under the sea had special abilities that could detect him, then it would be troublesome. Floating directly to the surface, Yi Qinghan began to fly rapidly. His target was the northern part of the South Sea, the section near the Inland Sea. After flying for a short while, Yi Qinghan saw 5 dragon boats speeding toward him. Yi Qinghan stopped in the air and looked down nervously. He did not dare to release his divine sense and just stood there quietly. The 5 dragon boats quickly passed by. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. Such a large dragon boat definitely had a 7th-grade war god on board. Reality proved that a 7th-grade war god was indeed unable to discover the secret technique of concealment. Yi Qinghan began to fly rapidly. This time, he used a million-year-old dragon bloodstone, which could hide for 10 days. Along the way, he encountered many search teams. Some were private soldiers from various islands, and some were Star Army soldiers wearing war god robes and black helmets. However, Yi Qinghan did not make a move and continued to advance quickly. Until 10 days later, when the dragon bloodstone was about to explode, Yi Qinghan finally stopped and chose to dive into the deep sea. He revealed himself and quickly exchanged for the dragon bloodstone before continuing forward. In the evading state, he could not use his divine power recklessly other than flying. Once he attacked or entered the War Imperial Palace, he would immediately reveal himself. Therefore, Yi Qinghan had to reveal himself to exchange for the dragon bloodstone. A month later, Yi Qinghan had already flown several trillion miles to the north. Finally, he hit near a place called Dragon Tooth Island. According to Su Longxiang's information, there were no large islands within a radius of several thousand miles. This Dragon Tooth Island was a nearby supply island. Su Longxiang had once stayed here for a period of time. The reason why Yi Qinghan chose this place was that the islands with venerables were very far away from this place. It was impossible for venerables to arrive in an instant. This was the first battle, so Yi Qinghan had to be more cautious. Everyone, prepare for battle. A day later, when a dragon boat was rapidly approaching Dragon Tooth Island, Yi Qinghan made his move. He flew toward Dragon Tooth Island and transmitted his voice to the Wind Emperor and the others in the War Imperial Palace. Chapter 885. The Dragon Tooth Island was not large. When the dragon boat approached, the shield of the island was instantly opened. Yi Qinghan could see the layout of the entire island at a glance. A team of warriors flew down from the dragon boat, led by a 6th-grade war god. They were all members of the Star Army. There were nearly 100 of them, including more than 10 6th-grade war gods, and the rest were 5th-grade war gods. Yi Qinghan did not dare to spread out his divine sense. He just quietly followed them into the island. There were dozens of pavilions on the island, all neatly built on the island. After the team of Star Army walked in, nearly 100 Star Army soldiers flew out from the pavilions and entered the dragon boat. Apparently, it was time to change shifts. Is the fiery dragon city lord in the Sea of Stars or not? What's the point of searching like this? Humph! This bastard city lord, if he hadn't been caught, I would have eaten his flesh alive. Because of him, I have to wander on the sea for a year every other year. My body is rusty. Ha! Next time you see His Highness, ask him to arrange for people to destroy the fiery dragon city again. Sho, do you want to die? How dare you say that? Stop talking and go in. I haven't enjoyed myself for a year. I heard that a batch of cat girls was sent here. As the Star Army flew fast, they shouted unscrupulously. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan, who was following behind him, was burning with rage. He quickly stopped, afraid that they would sense his murderous intent. After calming himself down, Yi Qinghan followed them again and finally entered the building complex. Swish! A figure flashed out of the pavilion. The Star Army immediately knelt to a man in front of them and said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Excellency. Well, rest for a year and continue the search. Pay attention next time. His Highness will be back from the Soul Emperor Pavilion soon. If anyone dares to slack off again, don't blame me for being rude." This person was obviously a 7th grade war god. Yi Qinghan observed with his naked eyes and estimated that this person was at most in the upper 7th grade. He was greatly reassured. The 7th grade war god's body flashed and disappeared into a room. The Star Army immediately rushed toward the largest pavilion. Yi Qinghan did not follow. Instead, he quietly snuck into the loft of the 7th grade war god. There were many rooms in the loft, but only one of them was tightly shut. Evidently, he was alone. After that, Yi Qinghan began to search the nearby rooms, but there was no one there. When he walked into the largest pavilion that the Star Army had just entered, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. In the hall of the room, nearly 100 soldiers of the Star Army were inside. Apart from them, there were also hundreds of women. The women were all naked, and the soldiers of the Star Army were all naked. They were actually having sex in the hall in broad daylight, and they were a group of promiscuous people. On the floor, on the tables, on the chairs, and on the walls, there were naked human figures everywhere. The scene was extremely erotic and even a little disgusting, because he actually saw several cat girls licking each other and several men licking each other. Is this Star Army the offspring of wild beasts? Yi Qinghan did not dare to look anymore. He was afraid that his murderous aura would be accidentally exposed. He forcefully suppressed the urge to vomit and began to search the surroundings. In the end, he confirmed that there were only this group of warriors, a 7th grade war god, and several servants on the island. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. Yi Qinghan did not have any scruples. He rushed into the hall, roared, and waved his hand. The Wind Emperor, dozens of experts, and dozens of demonic beasts all appeared on the scene. All of them had their divine energy and demonic energy in their bodies. The weapons in their hands were shining with cold divine weapons. Each of them and each demonic beast targeted different warriors and violently attacked them. When the Wind Emperor and the others appeared, Yi Qinghan's body instantly disappeared, and then he quietly flew to the side to watch the battle. The battle in the hall was not fierce. Rather than a battle, it would be more accurate to call it a massacre. One side was ready to attack and suddenly appeared. The other side was the most relaxed state of mind. In an instant, all the warriors were killed. More than 100 divine gems floated in the air, and dozens of cat girls were also implicated. The number of people on Yi Qinghan's side was almost the same as that of the Star Army, and their strength was generally much higher. 49 demonic beasts, all at the peak of the 6th grade, and the Wind Emperor was more familiar with the 7th grade realm. Who could resist each one of them? Swish! How dare you? The 7th grade war god was instantly awakened. He immediately rushed out and roared at the hellish scene in the hall. However, he did not move forward. Instead, he quickly retreated. The enemy had a 7th grade war god and so many peak of the 6th grade. He was not a fool. Of course, he chose to escape and send a message at once. However, As he flew through the air, he suddenly bumped into something. Then, he saw a hand emitting a white stream of air. It was like the claw of a demon. It appeared out of thin air and easily crushed his divine crystal. How could you be a venerable? Before the 7th grade war god died, he stared at the face that was plastered all over the star sea and said in disbelief. Yi Qinghan had the origin energy and suddenly appeared. He subconsciously thought that Yi Qinghan was a venerable. City Lord, what's in your hand? Master, how could you have the origin energy? Except for Tianxin and the other two, who had already seen it, the rest of the people looked at the white air current in Yi Qinghan's hand in shock. They looked at the cyan figure in the sky and the lifeless body falling down. They could not believe it. What are you waiting for? Do you want to die? Destroy this island for me. Go! Yi Qinghan did not explain and shouted in a deep voice. Everyone quickly came to their senses. However, dozens of soul slaves grabbed the 20 surviving cat girls in their hands. Yi Qinghan glanced at them indifferently and did not blame them. The Wind Emperor made the first move. His divine energy transformed into a giant palm and slammed down on the buildings. Rumble! With a series of loud noises, all the buildings were razed to the ground. The heart formation stone of the island's barrier was also destroyed, and the barrier on the island dissipated instantly. Swish! Yi Qinghan quickly flew down. Then, he grabbed countless heads from the ruins and quickly placed them on an empty ground. Finally, he ordered all the cat girls to stop resisting and put them into the War Emperor Palace. Then, he activated the escape form and dashed away. Buzz! Less than an hour after Yi Qinghan left, the sky above Dragon Tooth Island trembled, and a venerable teleported out. Then several venerables teleported over one after another. When the Peach Blossom venerable teleported over, the entire Dragon Tooth Island was surrounded by countless Star Army soldiers. There were more than 10 venerables inside, and all of them looked terrible. The Peach Blossom venerable swept his eyes across and saw the countless heads on the ground. His expression also instantly became extremely unsightly. These heads were arranged according to some special patterns and finally formed two big words, revenge. Many things were transmitted through countless communication jade talismans. The Star Sea shook again. After that 7th grade war god discovered the Wind Emperor and the demonic beasts, he immediately sent a message. Now that these people had severed limbs, it was easy to see that many people had died at the hands of the demonic beasts. The two big words of human heads on the ground were more like a blatant declaration from Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was still in the Star Sea, and he still dared to openly kill the Star Army. It was one thing to kill people, but he still dared to leave words. Countless venerables and experts on Dragon Tooth Island felt like they had been slapped heavily in the face again. Yi Qinghan was clearly taking revenge. He was clearly declaring war on the entire Star Sea. Search, mobilize everyone, find him, and then crush him into pieces. All the venerables were enraged. They opened up their divine senses and teleported in all directions. Countless messages were sent to the nearby martial artists, god bandits, and the Star Army. The Star Sea was instantly stirred up. Chapter 886. The entire Star Ocean began to move. Countless people gathered in the direction of Dragon Teeth Island. Li Tian Royal Highness was far away in Supreme Island, and there was no one in charge of the Southern Sea. However, countless warriors and god bandits were rushing towards Dragon Teeth Island. Yi Qinghan had thoroughly infuriated them this time. The Star Army represented the Star Ocean. Killing people was not a big deal, but using a human head as a sign was an undisguised provocation. It was an undisguised declaration of war. The experts of the various prefectures who roamed the Starry Sea did not belong to the Starry Sea, but the people of the various islands and the god bandits who roamed the Starry Sea all year round took pride in the people of the Starry Sea and the Starry Sea Sovereign. Li Kong sent people to destroy Flame Dragon City. They did not feel that it was wrong to harm the innocent. They only felt that they were proud. The Star Ocean was like a powerful lion. They did not feel that it was overboard when they stepped on others. However, if a wild wolf howled at it, it would be infuriated. In just half a month, the number of experts near Dragon Teeth Island had reached several billion. With so many people and over 10 paragons, they had turned the 5 million kilometers of sea region around Dragon Teeth Island upside down. However, Yi Qinghan had mysteriously disappeared. No one discovered any trace of him. Even the warriors and demonic beasts under him could not find a single strand of hair. This made everyone feel flabbergasted. Logically speaking, even if that Mo Xiao Xiao came to help him and teleported him, with so many paragons rushing over from all directions, it should be impossible for them to not find any trace of him, right? 2 months later, the 18 paragons gathered at Dragon Teeth Island again. They had been searching continuously for 2 months. This made them mentally exhausted. Since they could not find him after 2 months, it would be futile for them to continue searching. Hence, everyone decided to guard Dragon Teeth Island and wait for news after the thorough search by several billion warriors. Peach Blossom, where exactly is this convenient in-law of yours hiding? A minor god king could actually avoid the search of so many people? Truly awesome. Venerable Flying Snow had a mischievous expression. Looking at the helpless Venerable Peach Blossom, he started making fun of him. Paragon Peach Blossom's expression instantly turned ashen. He glared and furiously roared. This daddy doesn't have such in-laws. Old man Flying Snow, if you dare to continue making such jokes, I'll definitely fall out with you. The venerable ones beside them quickly came over to smooth things over. They had not found Yi Qinghan yet, so if their own people were to cause a ruckus, then they would become a laughing stock. A brown-skinned paragon said, "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. Fei Shue, if you are angry, don't vent it on Taoyuan." Finding that little bastard made everyone uncomfortable. Let's find him. Find him? How do we find them? Fei Shue's snow-white hair fluttered in the wind. Her face was filled with anger as she said, "With so many people, even a flying bird can be found. This little bastard, could it be that he flew into the sky or entered the ground?" Sigh. The few venerables sighed deeply. With such an intensive search, it was impossible for anyone to hide in the spatial artifact. This meant that either Yi Qinghan had already escaped from under their noses, or he was hiding somewhere. But where else could he hide? Many venerables sat cross-legged. They no longer thought about it, and began meditating. Venerable Flying Snow and Venerable Peach Blossom helplessly closed their eyes and waited for news. 3 days later, the 18 venerables opened their eyes at the same time. Their eyes were filled with excitement. They could feel their communication jade talismans vibrating. What could possibly happen at this moment that could send a message to them at the same time? There was only one thing. They had discovered the whereabouts of Yi Qinghan. Nevertheless, when everyone took out their communication jade talismans, the expressions of the 18 venerables turned ashen. Especially Venerable Flying Snow, whose expression was so black that water could be seen. The 18 of them glanced at each other before disappearing from Dragon Tooth Island. That's right, they had indeed discovered the whereabouts of Yi Qinghan. But the location was several 100 million kilometers away on Flying Rain Island. The scenery within Flying Snow Island was too beautiful, causing every pavilion to be extremely expensive. Venerable Flying Snow's clan had a huge population. Hence, he arranged for all the branch family disciples to stay on Flying Rain Island. But it was at this moment that something happened on Flying Rain Island. An hour later, all the venerables teleported to the Flying Rain Island with all their might using their divine power. Flying Rain Island was already surrounded by the Star Army and the nearby experts who came after hearing the news. After Venerable Flying Snow teleported over, he saw a scene that nearly made him explode. All the pavilions on Flying Rain Island had turned into ruins. The public square was filled with human heads, and there were still 2 huge words, revenge. What made Venerable Flying Snow let out a sigh of relief was that the majority of the civilians on Flying Snow Island were fine. Very few of those Heaven God Realm God Generals and God Kings died. Most of those who died were the protectors on the island. They were all God Emperors, a total of 700 to 800 of them. Clearly, Yi Qinghan did not kill these weak civilians. But this seemingly benevolent action of Yi Qinghan deeply infuriated Venerable Flying Snow. In the eyes of Venerable Flying Snow, Yi Qinghan was looking down on him. He furiously looked around before roaring out, "Fei Li is dead? Get the hell out of here! All the people guarding Flying Snow Island are dead." Venerable, young Master Fei Li led a team to Dragon Tooth Island half a month ago. He took away more than half of the 7th grade war gods. A subordinate immediately reported and explained. Before Venerable Flying Snow left, he asked young Master Fei Li to guard Flying Snow Island. He also left behind more than 10 7th grade war gods, including 3 peak 7th grade war gods. Who would have thought that young Master Fei Li would take these experts away, leaving behind only 5 7th grade war gods to guard the island? The 5 7th grade war gods received the news when something happened on Flying Rain Island, but they did not dare to leave Flying Snow Island. They were afraid that Yi Qinghan would bring his men to Flying Snow Island once the protective barrier was opened. Wouldn't Venerable Flying Snow kill them when he returned? Idiot! The Venerables by the side. They immediately teleported out and started searching with Flying Rain Island as the center with their divine senses. Venerable Flying Snow was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He slapped the subordinate and sent him flying. Then he quickly gave a few orders and teleported in all directions. The warriors on Dragon Tooth Island received the news here. They immediately formed a fan shape and surrounded this place. A team of warriors was formed every few dozen kilometers. Every team had an expert with the law of space. They spread out and searched like a net. But they searched for a month. There was still no news. Yi Qinghan mysteriously disappeared in the Starry Sea. 2 months later, in the south of Flying Snow Island, more than 300 warriors of the Star Army were massacred. Their heads were arranged into 2 big words: revenge. 3 months later, in the vicinity of Dragon Tooth Island, a team of Star Army was attacked. More than 300 warriors died. They only managed to kill one of Yi Qinghan's subordinates. More than 100 warriors escaped. 4 months later, in the border between the South Sea and the West Sea, a search team of more than 600 warriors was massacred. Not a single one escaped. Yi Qinghan's crazy massacre and strange whereabouts shocked the entire Starry Sea. It was said that even Venerable Li Kong was infuriated by the news from Venerable Island. Countless venerables from the North Sea, East Sea, and West Sea began to rush over. Countless warriors of the Star Army began to gather in the South Sea. 7 months later, after a few years, the Soul Emperor Pavilion's treasure hunt ended. Just as young Master Li Tian walked out of Soul Emperor Island with a disappointed expression and a pile of ordinary treasures. He had received countless messages. The most recent one was from an island 5 million kilometers away from Soul Emperor Island, where the Star Army was stationed. It had just been massacred by Yi Qinghan, and more than 500 warriors of the Star Army died. Li Tian raised his head and looked at the blood-red sea. After carefully reading the message, he grinned. However, this grin was incomparably ferocious. His eyes revealed a fighting spirit as he looked up at the sky. His body revealed a boundless killing intent as he laughed cruelly. Very good. Yi Qinghan, you have guts. I'm not afraid of you killing people. I'm only afraid that you won't attack. The more people you kill, the more you will incur the wrath of the Starry Sea. I'd like to see how you fight against the entire Starry Sea alone. Now, let's have some fun. Chapter 887. Li Tian didn't rush to the island immediately, not because he was afraid of Yi Qinghan. He had 27th grade war gods with him, and 5 of them were at the pinnacle of the 7th grade. Moreover, they were super bodyguards specially trained by the Supreme Island to protect important people. They were experts in joint attacks, and even a supremacy wouldn't be able to kill them in a short time. After staying in the Soul Emperor Pavilion for a few years, he didn't know much about the outside world. He needed to understand the overall situation, so he had to consult Supremacy Li Kong. He didn't reap many treasures on this trip, but in the past few years, his state of mind had undergone a huge change. Yi Qinghan continued to attack, and he even said that it was for revenge. It was obvious that he wouldn't stop anytime soon. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry and brought his men to the Supreme Island in the flaming lion chariot. The colorful shield outside the Supreme Island was still shining, and the island was still in a sealed state. Li Tian and his men charged into the deep sea and teleported to the Supreme Island. He was very calm this time, and he even smiled at the guards on the square. The guards were shocked and thought that they saw the wrong person. "Father, I'm back." In a small hall, Li Tian saw Li Kong. Although he also knelt on one knee, he had a faint smile on his face, and he was much calmer. "And not bad." Li Kong still looked like a Mithriya Buddha. He was gratified to see Li Tian and praised, "You've improved. It wasn't a waste of my effort to withstand the pressure and let you go out to train. Thank you for your effort, father. I've learned a lot. One will never grow up without going through hardships." Li Tian's eyes were filled with battle intent. He looked into the sky and said slowly, "This time is an even greater challenge and training for me." "Great!" Li Kong shouted, not concealing his joy at Li Tian's transformation. He waved his hand and threw out a token. "Other than the Supreme Island, you can command everyone in the Star Ocean, regardless of success or failure. Just remember to stay alive." "Thank you, father." Li Tian stared at the token in his hand. He knew that he had finally gained the recognition of Li Kong. Previously, the star token was a one-time use token. However, this one was permanent. There were only 3 of such tokens in the entire Star Sea. It represented the will of the Star Sovereign and could command the masses in the Star Sea. The smile on Li Kong's face began to freeze, and his expression became solemn as he instructed, "Remember a few points. First, this is your subordinate's trouble. It's fine no matter how much trouble they make. We can't interfere. I interfered previously because of your incompetence, and you didn't leave any evidence. That was why they couldn't move the people from Supreme Island. Yi Qinghan was killed by you because he was incompetent. The Misty Continent won't have much of a reaction. Similarly, if you were killed by Yi Qinghan, I wouldn't be able to do anything for you. Secondly, the Misty Continent didn't do anything. It was fine to do it once, but if it was done twice, the Misty Sovereign wouldn't do anything, but that crazy woman Jiawu would definitely secretly send people to do it. At that time, the Starry Sea would definitely fall into chaos. If you incur the wrath of the monarch, no one can save you. Thirdly, there are experts in the Fire Dragon Plane. Don't send people to die. Settle the battle between you and Yi Qinghan in the Starry Sea. Since he chose to start the battle, his personality could be seen from various information. He won't let this matter rest. In the end, either he dies or you die. Go. I hope you won't disappoint me." Li Tian knelt down and kowtowed to Li Kong 3 times. Then he turned around and strode outside resolutely. He was very clear that this was the biggest challenge of his life. If he succeeded, his mental state would undergo a perfect transformation, and he would have the chance to reach the peak in this life. If he failed, he might be permanently dispirited or die. When Li Tian arrived at Peach Blossom Island, a new battle situation appeared. 2 teams of Starry Army were slaughtered, and more than 1,000 people died. The 2 battles started tens of millions of miles apart. Over 20 supremacies and tens of billions of Starry Sea martial artists were toyed with by Yi Qinghan. When the main force went to the south, Yi Qinghan started slaughtering in the east, west, and north. When the main force went to the place where he slaughtered, he appeared from another place. Every time he slaughtered, he chose a precise target. It was always a team of Starry Army with less than 1,000 people. Moreover, each team had at most 1 7th grade war god. Teams with 2 7th grade war gods would never make a move. Li Tian studied all kinds of information on Peach Blossom Island for several days, and finally confirmed a very strange thing. Yi Qinghan could teleport. In other words, Yi Qinghan could evade the detection of everyone's divine senses and disappear quietly. What made Li Tian slightly relieved was that Mo Xiaoxiao didn't appear. The combat strength of Yi Qinghan's subordinates was calculated. 1 7th grade war god, over 66th grade pinnacle experts, and over 26th grade experts. There was another point that Li Tian couldn't figure out. According to the description of the escaped martial artists, it seemed like Yi Qinghan had the ability to kill a 7th grade war god instantly. Li Tian snorted disdainfully at this point. Every aspect of Yi Qinghan's information showed that he was only at the Divine King realm. Even if he was a soul cultivator and had a soul-devouring beast, it was already heaven-defying for him to be able to kill a god emperor. The might of a god emperor was a barrier that Divine King realm martial artists would never be able to overcome. Even a soul cultivator at the pinnacle of the Divine King realm could at most kill a 5th grade war god. In the history of the Divine Realm, the only freak that appeared was the Soul Emperor. With a treasure, he suppressed a venerable at the pinnacle of 7th grade. Ordinary venerables wouldn't dare to confront him head-on. If Yi Qinghan could kill a 7th grade war god with his Divine King realm cultivation, wouldn't he be several times more freakish than the Soul Emperor? This definitely subverted the concept of martial artists. Of course, Yi Qinghan could kill a 7th grade war god. Furthermore, for close to a year, Yi Qinghan led the Wind Emperor and the rest to battle from north to south. The few times Yi Qinghan attacked, the Wind Emperor and the rest had already raised his strength to the level of a venerable. If Yi Qinghan didn't attack, every time he attacked, he would definitely kill a 7th grade war god. Over the past year, the number of 7th grade war gods that died in the hands of Yi Qinghan had already reached close to 10. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was leading the Wind Emperor and the rest towards the north. In the past year, he had killed thousands of martial artists and caused chaos in the entire South Sea of Stars. However, Yi Qinghan didn't have much arrogance on his face. Instead, he became even more taciturn. He was very clear that the reason he was able to kill so many experts so smoothly was not because of his strength. Yi Qinghan didn't explain the misunderstanding of the Wind Emperor and the rest. He knew very well that he was still a god king, just a slightly abnormal god king. He didn't think that he had the strength to kill a 7th grade war god casually. If he were to face them head-on, even an ordinary god emperor could easily kill him, let alone a 7th grade war god. It was true that he had origin energy, but this origin energy couldn't compare to a venerable. A venerable could instantly use origin energy. However, he had to control his divine sense with incomparable difficulty and move the origin energy from the bridge in the Sea of Souls into his body. Every time, it took a long time, and there was no guarantee of success. There was even one time when his soul trembled so violently that his concealment technique was exposed. Fortunately, at that time, he was a little far from that 7th grade war god, so he immediately used concealment technique. If he didn't have concealment technique, any god emperor would be able to kill him before he could move the origin energy to his palm. Origin energy couldn't be kept in the body forever, or else it would easily dissipate. If it was stored in the soul, the Sea of Souls could continuously nourish the origin energy. Furthermore, Yi Qinghan's origin energy was too little and could only cover his palm. The origin energy of a venerable could cover his entire body. They were simply not on the same level. Chapter 888. After moving stealthily for several days, Yi Qinghan arrived at the East Sea. He stopped and sneered at the south. Haha, continue your search in the South Sea. I won't play with you anymore. East Sea Stellar Army, I'm coming. Yi Qinghan was very clear that these few operations were largely due to the efforts of those spies. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will never be defeated in 100 battles. Guyu was walking the guerrilla warfare route of Grandpa Mao. However, there were too many people in the South Sea of the Stars. If one walked by the river often, one's shoes would be wet one day. Yi Qinghan understood this, so he spent more than 4 months rushing to the East Sea of the Stars. The East Sea of the Stars was about the same size as the South Sea, but there were 2 more main islands. Of course, there was Rain Butterfly Island, which was close to the ethereal continent. It had always been independent and did not listen to orders from either side. The other 4 main islands were close to the South Sea and lined up in a straight line to the north. There were many small islands to the north of the main island, and they were densely packed. The South Sea was in chaos, and the East Sea had sent many people there. Therefore, Yi Qinghan did not encounter a large search party in the East Sea. Recently, because of the commotion caused by Yi Qinghan's matter, there were fewer cultivators from the various continents coming to the Starry Sea to adventure. Along the way, Yi Qinghan only met a few dozen groups, which he avoided. Finally, Yi Qinghan stopped at an uninhabited, deserted island. He needed to find an absolutely safe place, such as the mysterious spirit's cave abode, to ensure his escape route, and then start the battle. Millions of people from Fiery Dragon City had died. He swore a divine emperor blood oath that he would make the Stars Sea pay 100-fold. He was not making empty promises. He was prepared to use many years to accomplish this magnificent feat that would forever be recorded in the history of the divine realm. He wanted to kill 100 million experts to pay tribute to those who died in Fiery Dragon City. He did not contact anyone from Rain Butterfly Island. Although Ling and Upia Piao were trustworthy, he did not want to owe anyone. He still owed Ling 2 favors, and she was too strange, even somewhat abnormal. He did not want to interact too much with her. Wind Emperor, come out. Let's go find Myriad God's Cave. Yi Qinghan wasn't familiar with the Eastern Sea, and he didn't have any spies. He could only rely on himself and let the Wind Monarch come out. Then, the two of them dove into the deep sea. There were many Myriad God caves in the Eastern Sea, but given the Wind Emperor and Yi Qinghan's strength, they didn't dare to dive too deep. They only dared to linger in the depths of the sea within 1,000,000 meters. If they went any deeper, the demonic beasts and spirit beasts would be extremely powerful. The two of them weren't confident that they could escape unscathed. Master, all the nearby Myriad God caves have been explored. A few with restrictions have been destroyed. There are too few isolated cave abodes like the mysterious spirit cave abode that still have restrictions. The reason why Myriad God Cave is called Myriad God Cave is because there are either no cave abodes or at least 10,000. The Wind Emperor sighed helplessly while Yi Qinghan's face was also filled with helplessness. There were too many cultivators searching for treasures in the Stellar Sea. They had explored the depths of the sea for millions of meters. In many cave abodes, even the ordinary gems used for illumination had been dug away. There were also many places that Yi Qinghan could clearly see had restrictions, but the heart formation stones had all been dug away. It would be harder to find a place like the mysterious spirit cave abode. The two of them wandered the Stellar Sea for a few more months. Finally, Yi Qinghan had no choice but to take out the communication jade talisman to send a message. The target of the message was Ling. Yi Qinghan chose to trust her, who was also a fiery Dragon Nation citizen. Although the two of them had conflicts in the past, they got along well. Most importantly, Ling didn't do anything out of line with him in the divine world. Moreover, Ling was the princess of Rain Butterfly Island. It was very easy for her to find out such information. The reply came very quickly. There were only 2 words: wait for me. Ling started to use the information on Rain Butterfly Island and started to investigate. Yi Qinghan gave up and rested with Wind Emperor in a secluded cave abode. He had been working very hard for the past year. He had to calculate many things. This wasn't a game. One wrong step and he might die. The news came very quickly. A few days later, Ling sent a message. There was a cave abode that was very secluded. The restrictions inside were intact. Even the spirit beasts inside were controlled by Yu Duanfei. Yu Duanfei was the only one who knew the most important location of this cave abode. Yi Qinghan was very excited. After asking for the location, he immediately went in that direction. This cave abode was millions of miles west of Rain Butterfly Island. It was also a separate Myriad God Cave. There was a deep-sea whirlpool nearby. Ordinary dragon boats wouldn't go there. After 2 months, Yi Qinghan rushed to this cave abode. If it wasn't for Ling giving the location in detail, Yi Qinghan wouldn't have found it. This cave abode was only tens of thousands of meters away from the deep-sea whirlpool. Yi Qinghan felt that his body would drift in that direction uncontrollably. The cave abode was very secluded. The entire underwater mountain was surrounded by purple ancient vines. Yi Qinghan searched for a long time before he found the entrance to this cave abode. The cave entrance was very small and could only fit 2 people at a time. As Yi Qinghan moved, origin energy revolved around her hand as she slowly walked in. The deeper he went, the wider the passage became. There were also gems that started to illuminate the passage. Wong! Suddenly, Yi Qinghan was repelled by a nameless restriction in front of him. His evasion technique failed. He quickly retreated in shock and used his evasion technique again. Swish! The restrictive spell suddenly lit up, and a black figure appeared in the passageway. She was wearing a tight black leather skirt, and it wrapped around a voluptuous body that made people's hearts beat faster. Her chest stood erect, revealing half of her dazzling white skin. She had a face that was as beautiful as a fairy from a painting. However, she looked around in confusion. Young Lady Ling, I haven't seen you for many years. You are even more charming. Yi Qinghan quickly revealed himself and smiled faintly. He didn't want to tease Yin Ling. He knew that she liked women. He said this because he needed her help. He was just flattering her out of courtesy. When Yin Ling saw Yi Qinghan, she revealed a strange smile. She revealed her neat white teeth and said, "Oh, is that so? Ling is very honored to be praised by the famous city Lord Yi in the Star Sea. Sigh, I am just a stray dog. Am I not here to seek refuge from young Lady Ling?" Yi Qinghan's attitude was very humble. Yin Ling was a little abnormal. He didn't dare to provoke her. Yin Ling let out a string of bell-like laughter. She suddenly winked at Yi Qinghan. She turned around and walked in while swaying her plump buttocks. Come in and talk. Don't worry. I am the only one in this 100 Harmony cave dwelling. My Empress Mother built a short-distance teleportation formation. Apart from my Empress Mother, no one can come here. I lied to my Empress Mother to come here for seclusion. 100 Harmony cave dwelling. Yi Qinghan felt a chill. He had a strange thought. Coming to find Yin Ling, this time, was a wrong decision. Chapter 889. The Lily Cave Abode was huge, much bigger than the Xianling Cave Abode. It was also beautifully decorated. Clearly, this was where Yu Duanfei would rest when he had nothing to do. Yi Qinghan placed the dozens of demonic beasts in a small hall. Then, he followed Yin Ling to the left side of the cave abode. There were many small rooms on the left side. Yi Qinghan placed the soul slaves there. When Yi Qinghan released the soul slaves, many of them flashed out with a cat girl. Yin Ling's eyes lit up when she saw these cat girls. However, when she saw them being carried by the soul slaves, she revealed a disgusted expression. Many of the soul slaves' eyes also lit up when they saw Yin Ling. However, Yi Qinghan's eyes turned cold. He immediately found a room and walked in quickly. Before Yi Qinghan and the others could go far, the violent panting of men and the moaning of women could be heard in the room. Yi Qinghan's face turned gloomy. He wished he could castrate these bastards 100 times over. He glanced at Yin Ling and saw her looking at him with a smile. Cough, cough. Miss Ling, this cave abode has a nice view. Yi Qinghan was even more embarrassed. Although these cat girls were trained to be sex slaves, he did not object when the soul slaves captured them on Dragon Tooth Island. After all, these soul slaves' souls were very suppressed. It was fine to let them release some pressure. However, Long Ling did not know about this. If she thought that he was robbing a good girl, it would be embarrassing. Yi Qinghan was a person with principles. For example, on Flying Rain Island, according to the Wind Emperor, he should have killed everyone. However, Yi Qinghan did not do it. Although many of the millions of people in Fiery Dragon City died unjustly, they killed innocent people indiscriminately. They were worse than beasts. He could not learn from them and be beasts. Of course, the Star Army did not actually cause any harm to Yi Qinghan. But Yi Qinghan thinks that since you're here to search for me and kill me, I'm not afraid of you. Then I can kill all of you. This was not some great principle. This was just Yi Qinghan's principle. He liked to do things according to his own principles. Yin Ling didn't dwell on this matter. She led Yi Qinghan to the right side of the cave mansion. The scenery on the right was even more beautiful. Along the way, the gems inside glowed with different colors at intervals. The decorations in the hall were also very gorgeous. Yi Qinghan felt as if what he saw was not a cave, but a luxurious mansion. Young Master Yi, this place is not bad, right? The two sat down in a small hall. Yin lowered her head and poured tea for Yi Qinghan. However, at this moment, Yi Qinghan was sitting opposite her. From this corner, he could clearly see Yinling's two perfect balls. He could even vaguely see the two red spots inside. This place is very good, very beautiful, and very big. Yi Qinghan secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva and subconsciously continued the conversation. Yinling raised her head to look at Yi Qinghan. Then, she lowered her eyelids and revealed a faint smile. She said with a sweet smile, "How about I show you more carefully?" Ahem, ahem. Yi Qinghan's face turned as red as his buttocks. He scolded himself in his heart. "We're both beautiful, but I'm so weak." Thinking of Yinling's eccentric character, Yi Qinghan was afraid of offending her, so he hurriedly covered it up. Well, today's weather is very good. Oh, by the way, Miss Ling, didn't you say you have a spirit beast? Why didn't you see it? This spirit beast must be very ferocious, right? The smile on Yinling's face deepened. She looked at Yi Qinghan with a meaningful gaze. Her luscious red lips parted as she said, "This spirit beast was subdued by my queen mother and locked in a cave. It is indeed very ferocious, just a bit more ferocious than young Master Yi." Looking at Yinling's beautiful smiling face and her meaningful gaze, Yi Qinghan felt even more scared. He quickly calmly laughed. Miss Ling is too humorous. It seems that all the young masters in this world will be charmed to death by Miss Ling. In my opinion, the entire realm of the gods will be alarmed if the Rain Butterfly Island's groom selection is held. Oh, I wonder if it can charm my dear young Master Yi? Yinling suddenly smiled. Then, she stood up and put her hands on the jade table in front of her. She put her face in front of Yi Qinghan. Her breasts were exposed once again. Her mouth exhaled a fragrant scent, which made Yi Qinghan's blood boil. The evil fire in his lower abdomen soared without limit. Yi Qinghan was frightened. He wasn't afraid of facing billions of experts from the Star Sea. However, he was afraid of this eccentric Yinling. If he hadn't known that Yinling liked women and hated men, he would have done it directly. However, he understood this point. The more Yinling acted like this, the more afraid he was. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. What if he got castrated by this woman when he was about to do it while stripping naked? The broken body of a god-level expert could be condensed again. However, if that thing was broken, what if it wasn't as good as before? Yi Qinghan didn't dare to gamble and beg for mercy. He didn't dare to look at Yinling's breasts anymore. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "Young Lady Ling, I'm afraid of you. I was wrong. Please don't make trouble, okay?" He, the famous young Master Yi in the divine world, is actually afraid of a little girl who has just broken through to the divine king realm. If this gets out, the people of the divine world will laugh their heads off. Yinling knew when to stop. She sat back with an indifferent expression as if nothing had happened. This made Yi Qinghan secretly feel that it was a close call. If he had been impulsive just now, the consequences would have been unimaginable. After calming down, Yi Qinghan asked, "When will young Lady Ling return to the Rain Butterfly Islands?" Yinling raised her eyebrows and said, "This is my place, right? Can't this lady stay here? Are you afraid that I will eat you?" Cough, cough. Yi Qinghan almost spat out the tea in his mouth. He revealed a bitter expression and said, "It's not good for a man and a woman to be alone. It will damage young Lady Ling's reputation." Yinling gave him a contemptuous look and said, "I'm not afraid. So what are you afraid of? You afraid that you can't control yourself? Or afraid that I can't control myself? Moreover, this Lily Cave mansion is not controlled by me. You can't come in at all." "That's right. Young Master Yi, why don't you go back to the Misty Continent? Since you have the ability to come here under the siege of billions of experts from the Star Sea, I think you can go back to the Misty Continent easily, right?" "Go back? Yi Qinghan revealed a cold smile. Of course, he could go back easily. He even saw the coastline of the Misty Continent several times, but he didn't go back. He stood up and said coldly, "A million people of the Flame Dragon City died because of me. I swore a divine emperor blood oath that I will make the star sea pay 100 times the price. If I don't kill 100 million people, how can I go back to the Flame Dragon City to worship the souls of the dead? The destruction of the Flame Dragon City is a slap to the face of the people of the Misty Continent. If I don't get back at them, how can I face the people of the Misty Continent?" Er's eyes flickered as she leaned forward again. Her chest was faintly discernible. She looked at Yi Qinghan affectionately and said, "Dear young noble Yi, you are so outstanding, so radiant, so chivalrous and tender. You are better than all the other young nobles in the divine world. How can choose a husband in the future?" Fall. Here we go again. Seeing the light in Er's eyes and the teasing smile, Yi Qinghan's expression changed greatly. He ran away while waving his hand, saying, "Young lady forget what I said just now. Don't play anymore, or something bad will happen. I'm going back to sleep. Don't send me off." Chapter 890. Yi Qinghan planned to rest for a while in the Lily Cave abode. After a year of continuous battles, Yi Qinghan was mentally and physically exhausted. At the same time, he knew that the experts in the Star Sea were all excited. If he continued to stand in the limelight, he would be easily killed by the waves. Therefore, he decided to let the tens of billions of experts in the Star Sea run for their lives for a while to wear down their spirits. Then, when they were mentally exhausted, they would continue to fight. When the enemy advances, we retreat. When the enemy retreats, we harass. This was Mao's tactic again. Yi Qinghan used it happily. Of course, recently he had fun with The soul slaves in the cave abode also had fun with the cat girls. Er's character was very strange. Rather than strange, it was more like a little abnormal. She was very open with her words and even bolder than Yi Qinghan. Every time she saw Yi Qinghan fleeing, she would let out a rippling laughter, as if she had won a great battle. Yi Qinghan knew her background and had heard Yu Piao talk about it secretly. On Rain Butterfly Island, often played with the young masters on the island until they were half dead. Now no one dared to approach her. Yu Duanfei was also worried about his daughter's abnormal character. Therefore, Yi Qinghan was dancing on a sharp knife. He was in pain, but also happy. Flirting with was very exciting and erotic. But it was also very stifling. He could only watch but not play. There was no place for him to vent his lust. This pain was a kind of torture. Of course, even if he let Yi Qinghan play with her, he really did not have the guts to do so. He also strongly controlled himself. "Miss I plan to go out to sea tomorrow. I have rested for half a year, and it's about time. It's time to go hunting." Under the pink light, held a transparent white jade cup and drank a cup of wine that was as red as blood. The wine had a slight viscosity. After drank it, there was a long line at the corner of her mouth. It made Yi Qinghan feel tempted and disgusted. He thought to himself, "This woman is getting more and more perverted." pulled a snow-white handkerchief over and elegantly wiped the corner of her mouth. She then faintly said, "Oh, young Master Yi, don't die outside this time, okay?" "Ha! Yours truly has 9 lives. How can I die so easily?" Yi Qinghan said nonchalantly. Possessing the evading technique had boosted his confidence tremendously. Being able to play with billions of experts in the palm of his hand had made him more and more confident in his evading technique. Over the past year, he had been constantly using evading technique. His speed had already reached its maximum, and he was also incomparably proficient in using evading technique. Waved her hand and giggled. "Hee, don't worry. If you die, I will take care of your wife for you. F***CK. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. This was Mer's plan. However, he had been alone with for half a year, so he wasn't angry anymore. The angrier he was, the happier she would be. It wasn't worth it. Looking at Er's smug expression, Yi Qinghan couldn't help but blurt out, How about Miss Ling, you become my woman? This way, you will have the chance to seduce Qing Shing and the others. Didn't you say that you like to play together? Huh? Yin Ling was slightly surprised by Yi Qinghan's sudden outburst. In the past, it was always her who teased Yi Qinghan, but today, it was the other way around. Yi Qinghan had the guts to tease her. Yin Ling wasn't angry. On the contrary, her face revealed a faint charm. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared at Yi Qinghan. She swayed her plump buttocks and walked towards Yi Qinghan step by step. Her pace was very slow, but her posture was swaying. The charm on her face became more and more intense. Her pearly white teeth bit her red lips from time to time, and her whole body emitted a kind of seductive aura. Yi Qinghan began to swallow his saliva. His body kept retreating. However, since he had already said it, it wasn't in his character to give in immediately. Moreover, any normal man would subconsciously wait and look forward to such an erotic thing. Gulp, gulp. Yi Qinghan's body leaned against the wall, and he had nowhere to retreat. At the same time, Yin Ling's two jade-like arms coincidentally reached out and hugged his neck. Her hot body pressed against his chest, and her plump breasts tightly pressed against Yi Qinghan's chest, causing his blood vessels to swell. Then, he looked at Yin Ling's face in horror. She slowly moved closer to him, and the fragrance in his nose made his breathing even more rapid. However, Yin Ling's face suddenly stopped when it was half a foot away from him. Just like that, without any movement, her pair of beautiful eyes widened as she looked at Yi Qinghan's evasive gaze and awkward expression with interest. The corners of her mouth slowly curled up. It was the smile of a cat teasing a mouse. It was the smile of a victor, and it was a kind of invisible mockery towards Yi Qinghan. Mother asterisk cur. Uncle can endure it, but Aunt can't. Yi Qinghan was about to beg for mercy, but when he saw Yin Ling's smile, he couldn't bear it anymore. He stretched out his hand that was leaning against the wall and instantly grabbed Yin Ling's waist with one hand, while the other hand was placed on the back of her head. Then his hot and wild lips covered hers. Boom! Both Yi Qinghan and Yin Ling's mind exploded at the same time. Both of them were just playing around, and they had never thought of doing it for real. When Yi Qinghan's lips covered hers, both of them were dumbfounded. So soft, so sweet. These were the only words in Yi Qinghan's mind. Since he had already made his move, he might as well say it out loud. Thus, he exerted all his strength to take it. His two powerful hands quietly slid down, and one of them covered that plump and supple butt. His other hand, however, retracted into the black leather clothes, after which it quietly moved upwards and lifted the thin undergarments. After which he grabbed a slightly trembling lump of soft and enormous thing. F*CK. So big, so soft. Yi Qinghan's head was completely dizzy. He didn't care about anything else, and used his hands and mouth to greedily take it. Oh, Yin Ling's head was also dizzy. She felt dizzy as if she had drunk a few cups of strong liquor. A strong masculine scent was transmitted from Yi Qinghan's mouth through his rough hands, causing her to feel even more dizzy. She was born on the Hidden Island, and the customs of the Hidden Island were very promiscuous. She had made love with countless women, but this was the first time that she was played by a man in such a domineering manner. She felt as if there was a strange taste. It seemed that she had never had such a taste when she was playing with a woman. This taste was very special, very stimulating, and very exciting. Wait a man? Yin Ling's eyes suddenly opened wide. Seeing Yi Qinghan's extremely enjoyable face, she remembered the disgusting faces of those men on the Hidden Island. Her body suddenly emitted a chill, and a dagger appeared in her hand out of thin air. Then, she forcefully stabbed towards Yi Qinghan's lower body. F*CK. Yi Qinghan immediately felt danger the moment Yin Ling opened her eyes. When he saw the dagger in Yin Ling's hand, he was so scared that his soul left his body, and his body quickly dodged to the side. But his speed was still too slow. The dagger slid across the robe behind him, and a piece of cloth floated up. Blood splashed out, and Yi Qinghan's shining white buttocks were instantly exposed in the air. It was badly mutilated, and the contrast of red and white was extremely eye-catching. "Pervert, crazy woman!" Yi Qinghan cursed in his heart with a hoarse grin. But seeing Yin brandishing the dagger and chasing after him, Yi Qinghan quickly ran away. He directly rushed to the room where the soul slaves lived and kicked open the door. Seeing that the Wind Emperor was making out with a cat girl, he couldn't help but become even angrier and loudly shouted, "Play, play! Play your sister. You only know how to play every day. All of you, come out, let's go, and follow this young master to kill." Chapter 891. Yi Qinghan was filled with anger. He led everyone and the demonic beasts to hide. He started to look for a suitable target to vent his anger on the Star Army. There were many star armies. They could be found on countless islands in the Star Sea. Before the Supreme Island was sealed, the Star Monarch had great control over the Star Sea. Although the island was sealed, Honorable Li Kong did not recall the Star Army. He only told the Star Army not to care about the Star Sea. As long as they did not provoke the Star Army, it would be fine. Yi Qinghan's target was the Star Army teams that were guarding the countless bases. There were not many people in these teams. Each team only had about 100 people. They were usually led by God Emperors and 6th-grade war gods. Occasionally, there would be 7th-grade war gods in important bases. They were not very strong. However, because of the name of the Star Army, no one dared to provoke them. However, it was different now. Yi Qinghan not only dared to provoke them, but he also dared to kill them. He knew one thing. Even if he killed all the Star Army outside the Supreme Island, the Star Monarch would not make a sound. If the people below made a fuss, the Star Monarch would deal with it. He would not abandon his identity and come to kill him personally. Of course, it was different if Yi Qinghan foolishly went to the Supreme Island. Reality proved that Yi Qinghan's guess was right. Yi Qinghan made a fuss in the Star Sea for a year and killed thousands of people. The Supreme Island did not make a sound. At least, they did not show it on the surface. Although Li Tian represented the Supreme Island to a certain extent, as long as the Supreme Island did not make a move, Yi Qinghan had nothing to fear. When they were looking for a cave abode to hide in, Yi Qinghan and the Wind Emperor had already found out a lot of information about the island. They did not think too much and escaped toward the inner sea. A moon queen. Yi Qinghan reached the center of the East Sea. He was 100 million miles away from the Lily Cave abode. Yi Qinghan locked onto a small team. This team would wander around the area once every 10 days. It was obvious that they were doing a perfunctory search. Yi Qinghan waited outside the island for 3 days. Finally, the island's barrier opened. Yi Qinghan chuckled and did not attack. Instead, he quietly entered the island. There were a few other people on the island, all of them at the Divine King realm. They were the servants of the Stardust Army. Wind Emperor Tian Shun, prepare 5 people and capture all of these God Kings alive. Remember, seal the Divine Crystal immediately. A few God Kings sat in the hall and chatted idly. The Stardust Army had gone out for routine scouting, so they had been very relaxed these few days. Hey, did you guys hear? Recently, His Highness has been angry again. After searching for half a year, that devil, Yi Qinghan, has actually disappeared again. Is this person a ghost? He suddenly appeared and then disappeared. What kind of divine ability is this? So many people actually can't find him. I'm guessing that this devil must have obtained an ancient god's secret manual. Isn't there a light god among the 10 ancient god clans? He has an unimaginable divine ability. He can fly up into the sky, burrow into the ground, and is omnipotent. It would be great if I were as powerful as him. Unfortunately, I don't know how long it will take for me to cultivate to the God Emperor realm, the 4 God King side emotionally, 4 warriors of their realm. Even a 5th-grade war god was so far beyond their reach, let alone Yi Qinghan, who had fought the Star Sea alone. Buzz! All of a sudden, the 4 of them tensed up and sensed danger. They immediately circulated their divine power and wanted to take out their communication jade talismans. They knew that those who could sneak into the island were all supreme experts. They did not ask for anything. They only wanted to send a message. However, although they were fast, the speed of the Wind Emperor and the others was not something they could compare to. In an instant, the 4 divine crystals were sealed. Only then did Yi Qinghan reveal himself, and leisurely sat in front of the 4 of them. Then he smiled warmly and said, "Hello. I guess the 4 of you know me? You are the demon? Yi Qinghan? It's him. He looks exactly like the portrait and can appear in an instant. Spare us, my lord. We are just servants, not the Star Army. I have a family of a few thousand people. My grandfather is still breastfeeding. Oh no, my grandson is still breastfeeding. My grandfather is hundreds of thousands of years old and can't walk anymore. They all need me." The 4 of them naturally recognized Yi Qinghan. If Tian Litian had suddenly appeared here, they might not have recognized him. However, Yi Qinghan's portrait had been hung all over the Star Sea. Not just the Star Sea, but Yi Qinghan's name and portrait had basically spread throughout the divine realm. In particular, the people of the Misty continent, the younger generation, all regarded him as a hero and idol. Fighting the Star Sea alone, regardless of whether he succeeded or not, was enough to make the blood of countless young martial artists on the Misty continent boil and worship him. Moreover, Yi Qinghan had easily killed thousands of people under the hands of 10 billion experts. Yi Qinghan did not care about the gazes of the 4 people, nor would he be happy that he had become a celebrity in the divine realm. He was only doing what he was supposed to do, fulfilling a vow that had to be paid in blood. "All right, listen to me." Yi Qinghan smiled warmly, but in the eyes of the 4 people, it looked like the smile of a demon. As expected, Yi Qinghan's next words sent a chill down their spines. "You all know that I never show mercy when it comes to killing. I can't even remember how many people I've killed, and I don't like to waste my breath. You have 2 choices. Wu Shan, come out." Along with Wu Shan's appearance were 4 crystal cards. The numbers on the cards were so dazzling that the 4 of them felt dizzy. Yi Qinghan said, "The first choice is to become his sole slave. I guarantee that within 10,000 years, I will release your soul fires. These are your first payment. If you do well, you will receive 10 times more in the future. The second choice is to send you around the netherworld realm for free. Please choose." The answer was within everyone's expectations. These people were here to do chores for the Godstones in the first place. After Wu Shan accepted the 4 soul fires, everyone began to swagger around on the island. Several days later, the Star Army returned. They were caught off guard by Yi Qinghan's concealment, especially when they saw Yi Qinghan's subordinates. They were all scared out of their wits. Not a single one of them escaped. Another row of heads appeared in the open space on the island. "The situation is tense. Retreat." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and shouted in an ostentatious manner before disappearing in front of the 4 God King realm cultivators. Not long after, Li Tian received the news. He didn't ask the venerables from the South Sea to rush over, but only asked the venerables from the East Sea to start searching. He then gathered all the venerables from the South Sea to the Peach Blossom Island. "Yi Qinghan has appeared in the East Sea. I'm sure all of you have received the news." Li Tian's face was very calm, without a trace of anger. His eyes shone brightly from time to time, making everyone feel that the pressure from His Highness was getting heavier. The 20-odd venerables didn't say anything and just nodded their heads. They were all secretly guessing why Li Tian didn't go to the East Sea, but gathered everyone here instead. Li Tian remained silent for a while before he continued. "Based on the information from various sources, I'm guessing that Yi Qinghan has mastered a secret skill that allows him to turn invisible and hide from our divine senses. If we don't think of a way to crack this secret skill, even if we go to the East Sea, we will still be fooled by him." All the venerables still didn't say anything and nodded their heads at the same time. They all understood these things. Moreover, they had already thought of many ways, but they were all ineffective. If they didn't chase after him and allowed Yi Qinghan to kill them, the Star Sea would be greatly embarrassed. If they went after him, at least they would have a chance, right? Chapter 892. So, we're going to the East Sea this time, but our goal isn't to kill Yi Qinghan. We're going to use all sorts of methods to find out more about him and his secret skill. We're trying to figure out a way to break his secret skill. As long as his secret skill is broken, he'll be a toothless beast. We can crush him easily. Oh, Your Highness, what do you mean? What do you need us to do? Venerable Peach Blossom's eyes lit up. All the other venerables nodded with interest. Li Tian became excited when he saw the passion in everyone's eyes. What did this mean? It meant that His Highness Li Tian was very capable. He waved his hand and said, "It's simple. Firstly, we'll spread the net and cover the entire East Sea with our spies. We'll throw memory bugs everywhere. I don't believe that Yi Qinghan can remain invisible for a few months or years. Secondly, doesn't he like to kill the Star Army? Kill him. Let him be arrogant. Let him be arrogant. When he thinks that we can't do anything to him, when he's arrogant and complacent, when his mind isn't clear, it'll be his death. Thirdly, we'll set up a trap. All the venerables will conceal their divine power and hide in the base. We won't chase after him, but wait for him to come to us. If we attack immediately, he'll definitely die." All right, Your Highness's strategy is really good. You're truly the disciple of Venerable Li Kong. Your Highness is right. Let's see if that little bastard is still alive. I want his corpse to hang in the Star Ocean for millions of years. All the venerables stood up and cheered for Li Tian, although many of them were bootlicking him. But His Highness Li Tian's plan was indeed comprehensive. After they became venerables, they were used to solving problems with brute force. They hadn't used their brains for a long time. Once Li Tian's plan was mentioned, everyone started thinking. The more they thought about it, the more feasible they felt it was. Li Tian stood up happily. His entire being was filled with heroism. He naturally exuded a disdainful aura as he laughed. All right, let's follow the 3 steps for now. Everyone, go and arrange your subordinates. Remember to keep it a secret. We must use the most trustworthy subordinates to execute the plan. The day Yi Qinghan dies, I will definitely return to the Supreme Island and ask for your reward." His Highness Li Tian waved his hand, and the 10 billion experts of the South Stellar Sea and more than 20 paragons began to rush towards the East Sea. Countless dragon boats and war chariots covered the sky, as if they were going to start a war with a major faction. The dragon boats didn't move very fast, and there was a dragon boat every few dozen miles. They formed a net and swept toward the East Sea. This was Li Tian's usual routine. Of course, Li Tian purposely did this for Yi Qinghan to see. Actually, over at the East Sea, millions of experts had already gone over and started to make arrangements. Yi Qinghan was killing happily. By the time Li Tian and the rest arrived at the East Sea, Yi Qinghan had already attacked more than 10 islands. More than 10,000 Star Army soldiers had died in his hands. Yi Qinghan's name, as a demon, once again resounded throughout the entire Stellar Sea. In the eyes of ordinary martial artists, Yi Qinghan had already become an 8-foot tall, 8-foot wide, 3-headed, 6-armed Azura king who ate people alive. There were even many residents of small islands who started to use Yi Qinghan's name to scare disobedient children. However, more than a month ago, Yi Qinghan used his blood to leave behind a sentence, and it once again caused Yi Qinghan's name to spread throughout the divine realm. I use my blood to announce to the world that if His Highness doesn't die, or if he doesn't collect 100-fold debt of blood, he will never return. Along with this sentence, there were a total of 100 heads, and similarly, the word revenge was written on it. The meaning was very clear. Of course, this was only for the big families and factions who understood what had happened. Yi Qinghan was announcing his determination to the entire divine realm. Needless to say, His Highness was referring to Li Tian, 100-fold debt of blood. Those who understood what he meant would understand that Yi Qinghan wanted to kill 100 times the number of people to take revenge for those who died in Flame Dragon City. These words were very arrogant. If he used human heads, it would be a provocation to the Stellar Sea, a hidden declaration of war. Then this sentence would be a complete declaration of war. Moreover, he clearly stated that he wanted to kill Li Tian. There were only 3 people who could be conferred the title of His Highness, and they were all conferred by the 10 supremacies of Supremacy Island. They represented the new generation of elites of Supremacy Island. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire divine realm was in an uproar. The morale of the ethereal continent was greatly boosted. With the secret spread of the Soul Devourer Manor and Longyang Manor, Yi Qinghan's deeds were known by everyone in the ethereal continent. To outsiders, this was Yi Qinghan's arrogance. To the people of ethereal continent, this was pride. When Li Tian heard these words, he had already arrived at one of the main islands of the East Sea, Shatian Island. He wasn't angry at all. Instead, he laughed heartily. The guards in Supremacy Shatian at the side thought that His Highness had gone mad from anger, so they quickly consoled him. "I'm not angry. I'm happy. Of course, if it was me 10 years ago, I would definitely go mad from anger." Li Tian stood up proudly, looked at the translucent light barrier in the sky, laughed a few more times, and said, "Yi Qinghan, he's too arrogant. He's starting to go mad. He's been blinded by victory. His death isn't far away." Ha! The people nearby were shocked. Supremacy Shadian pondered for a moment, and his eyes lit up. He slammed the table and stood up, laughing loudly. Yes, his words are very arrogant, and he has sealed his own path. If he doesn't achieve this goal, he can only stay in the Stellar Sea. Ha! He thinks he's merciful and doesn't kill martial artists below the God Emperor level. How long does he need to kill 100 million people? His death isn't far indeed. Yi Qinghan was indeed a little arrogant. He kept telling himself to stay calm, but as he continued to win and kill the Stellar Army easily, a godly monarch had the entire Stellar Sea in the palm of his hand. A godly monarch had the entire Stellar Sea and dozens of supremacies in the palm of his hand. Unknowingly, a trace of arrogance appeared in his heart. This trace of arrogance slowly settled, and it started to turn into arrogance. Therefore, a month ago, he left a message on the island. There were dozens of spies all over the Eastern Sea. Yi Qinghan had a feeling that he had the entire Eastern Sea in the palm of his hand. The whereabouts of the experts pursuing him were easily discovered. Yi Qinghan also easily snuck away in advance. Before he was surrounded, he would escape far away, and no one would be able to find him. However, what he didn't know was that the countless times he was at the bottom of the sea, when he was exchanging dragon bloodstones, had already been secretly recorded by the omnipresent memory god bugs. He had bought a lot of dragon bloodstones through spies, but the rule of exchanging every 10 days had already been grasped by Li Tian. The pattern of his whereabouts had also been deduced. In addition to the supremacies of the Eastern Sea, more than 30 supremacies had snuck out. After guessing the next step that Yi Qinghan was going to attack, they concealed their auras and waited for Yi Qinghan to walk right into their trap. And we're almost done. If we continue to play, something might happen. Wind Emperor, let's do it again. How about going to the Southern Sea or the Northern Sea? Yi Qinghan happily transmitted a message to the Wind Emperor, and the two of them came to an agreement. The two of them discussed and prepared to kill another group of troops before returning to Lily's cave abode. After resting for a while, they would start to change locations. He also knew that something might happen if he played for too long. It was better to be careful. In the south of the Eastern Sea, Yi Qinghan had locked onto an island. Recently, he didn't kill the Star Army or the experts who were searching outside. There was a barrier on the island. If he sneaked in, it would be very easy for him to kill. Moreover, because of the barrier, he wouldn't be detected by the people nearby. All the recent operations were targeted at this island. Buzz! The barrier on the island opened, and a group of Star Army flew out. Yi Qinghan didn't hesitate and sneaked in quietly. Then, he flew towards the pavilion in the center of the island. However, he didn't know that in a secret room on the island, a white-haired elder suddenly opened his eyes. His face was filled with cruelty. Chapter 893. Yi Qinghan remained incomparably careful. He concealed himself as he entered the island. It was just that he did not know that there were many small restrictions on the island. These small restrictions did not have much use. Furthermore, the person who triggered them would not know, because these restrictions ranged from a speck of dust in the air to a leaf on the ground. They were all very natural things. But the moment someone touched them, the person controlling the restriction would immediately know. There were still a few simple pavilions on the island. This was the same layout as any other garrison island. But Yi Qinghan was still very careful. After searching through a few pavilions, he confirmed that there were only a few God King odd-job servants. Only then did he let Wind Emperor and the others appear. He then prepared to develop a few more spies. When Wind Emperor and the others appeared, a white-haired old man in a secret room below the pavilion became spirited again. There was a restriction within this secret room. This restriction was very simple. It could only obstruct the divine senses of a martial artist, but he could clearly see the situation outside. Actually, there were not just these restrictions on the island. It could be said that the entire island was filled with all sorts of small restrictions. Furthermore, the more than 100 garrison islands within a radius of several million kilometers were filled with many small restrictions. Unknowingly, Yi Qinghan had already entered a huge net, and his luck was especially good. He just happened to step onto an island where a paragon was hiding. The expression of Paragon Flying Snow was filled with high spirits, but he did not move. He was clear that Yi Qinghan had fallen into his trap, but he did not dare to act if Yi Qinghan did not show himself. The moment Yi Qinghan showed himself, he would have contributed greatly to the Star Sea. So many people could not kill Yi Qinghan, yet he killed him and captured him alive. What did this mean? It meant that he, Flying Snow, was formidable, amazing, captured alive? That's right. The smile on Paragon Flying Snow's face became even wider. Right? He had killed all the subordinates of Yi Qinghan and captured Yi Qinghan alive. Then they would slowly dismember him in front of all the cultivators in the Star Sea. This would greatly boost the morale of the Star Sea and humiliate the floating continent. Paragon Flying Snow immediately became delighted with his own thoughts. After that, he saw Yi Qinghan's figure faintly appearing through the seals. The light in Zhang Xian's eyes intensified as origin energy revolved around him. Without any hesitation, he teleported away. You have two choices. The first is to become his sole slave. Yi Qinghan smiled warmly and pointed at Wushan. He had made up his mind. After finishing this job, he returned to Lily's cave residence. After resting for half a year, he would continue to the South China Sea. After all, he had spies in the South China Sea. It would be a waste not to use them. Just like that, he floated around the East and South Seas until he killed 100 million people. But, halfway through his sentence, he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. He was very clear about this feeling. It was a sign that a fatal danger was approaching. He didn't think about where this danger came from. His body abruptly emitted many strands of God energy. He was prepared to evade at the first moment before escaping. He had never thought of entering the Combat Emperor Palace. The moment he entered the Combat Emperor Palace, he would be a live target. Since the enemy had come, he would definitely attack the nearby space, causing the space to fluctuate. From there, everyone in the Combat Emperor Palace would be forced out. Yet, his speed was fast, but Paragon Flying Snow was even faster. At such a close distance, Paragon Flying Snow was even faster. If he allowed a minor god king like Yi Qinghan to escape, he, Flying Snow, will be letting down his title as a paragon. Master, City Master. Wind Emperor Tian Chun, Wu Shan, and the others felt danger too. But when their eyes swept over, they discovered that a white figure had suddenly condensed by the side of Yi Qinghan. His hand was grabbing onto the back of Yi Qinghan. His 5 fingers dug deep into Yi Qinghan's back. He was currently sneering at them. See, you're a Paragon Flying Snow? Yi Qinghan felt a tearing pain coming from his back. Fresh blood spurted out. At the same time, his deity crystal was sealed. His god energy was too weak. Before Paragon Flying Snow, he could not even withstand a single blow. He was sealed instantly. Ha! Paragon Flying Snow laughed madly. The white hair behind him danced in the air. The smooth skin on his face became even redder. He raised his hand slightly, bringing Yi Qinghan in front of him. He did not care about Wu Shan and the others by the side. The edge of his mouth curled into a cruel grin. He guffawed. It is this seat, City Master Yi. You should rejoice that you have landed in my hands. Otherwise, others will kill you immediately. This seat will let you live for a few more days. After that, I will let you skin you alive in front of the experts of the Star Sea. Ha ha! Hong! The moment he spoke, Wind Emperor, Tian Shun, Wu Shan, and the other two immediately unleashed their attacks. They did not use any weapons. Their hands were surging with God energy as they smashed towards Paragon Flying Snow. They did not care that Yi Qing Han was in his hands. How can a grain of rice compete with the sun and moon? Paragon Flying Snow laughed disdainfully. Now that Yi Qing Han was in his hands, the others could just die. With his left hand holding on to Yi Qing Han, Paragon Flying Snow teleported behind Wind Emperor. He turned his palm into a claw and grabbed towards the back of Wind Emperor. His target was the deity crystal of Wind Emperor. Xiao, who knew that Wind Emperor, seemed to have a premonition that Paragon Flying Snow would definitely attack him. That fist of his was just an illusion. Furthermore, before Paragon Flying Snow teleported, his body had already started flashing towards the left. At this moment, he was accelerating. He dodged very ingeniously, but he did not expect that Paragon Flying Snow's speed was too fast. Even though his deity crystal did not explode, his back was still clawed until it was a bloody mess. Hong! Paragon Flying Snow teleported. Tian Shun, Wu Shan, and the others could only attack in the air. The god energy of the few clashed against each other, causing an explosion in the air. Of course, it also caused the space to fluctuate. A ripple radiated out in all directions from the center of the explosion. Wang! Ayo! What Yi Qing Han wanted was precisely this spatial fluctuation. When he felt an intense pain from his back, and his deity crystal was sealed, he immediately knew that something had happened. He began panicking. When a person faced death, even a saint would panic. However, there was something strange about Yi Qing Han. He had two souls. His two souls could be used at the same time or separately. At that moment, he could cause one soul to feel panic, fear, and worry. The other soul rapidly calmed down. He immediately began analyzing and thinking of ways to save himself. His god energy was sealed, and the one who sealed him was even a paragon. How could he save himself? The only way was to escape from the control of Paragon Flying Snow and hide. There was only one way to escape, and that was to cause chaos in the battlefield. How could he do that? That was to let his men and beasts out of the War Emperor Palace. Hence, when Yi Qing Han and Paragon Flying Snow spoke, they immediately asked Wind Emperor and the others to think of ways to make the space fluctuate. As expected, the space fluctuated intensely, causing the parallel space within the War Emperor Palace to fluctuate too. Several dozen soul slaves and beasts appeared. Everyone, don't care about me. Attack Paragon Flying Snow. Otherwise, everyone will die. Yi Qing Han's god energy was sealed, yet he transmitted using his divine sense. In such a desperate situation, he could not care so much anymore. He transmitted furiously to everyone. Wind Emperor and the others were naturally clear how dangerous the current situation was. If they did not save Yi Qing Han, nobody could escape. Even if they chose to escape, without Yi Qing Han's evasive technique and spatial deity weapon, where could they escape to? Since Paragon Flying Snow appeared, then there would definitely be many ambushers rushing over. The life and death of everyone depended on this moment. It depended on whether Yi Qing Han could escape from the control of Paragon Flying Snow. Chapter 894. Xiao! Ayo! All the soul slaves and beasts did not hesitate. They charged towards Paragon Flying Snow. This time, neither man nor beast used energy to attack. Instead, all of them wielded their weapons and claws and attacked with all their might. Haha, since all of you wish to die, this seat shall send all of you to the 9 underworld realm. Paragon Flying Snow was not angry. Instead, he was delighted. This group of fools did not run. Instead, they wanted to rely on their puny strength to kill him. The cruel look on his face became more intense. He carried Yi Qinghan and teleported once again. Chi. Paragon Flying Snow's teleportation speed was very fast. Accompanying every teleportation was the explosion of a deity crystal or beast core. In the blink of an eye, 3 peak grade 6 martial artists and 2 beasts were killed by him. The teleportation and origin energy of a paragon were too strong. These soul slaves and beasts could not even withstand a single move from him. The origin energy could resist against transcendent grade deity weapons. It was indestructible. Paragon Flying Snow had been a paragon for more than 100,000 years. He was incomparably proficient in teleportation and origin energy. His attacking method was simple. After teleporting, he would grab the martial artist beside him with his hand that was imbued with origin energy. He ignored the defenses of the other party. Even when the other party attacked with their weapons, he ignored them. With a single claw, he crushed the martial artist along with his weapon. Old dog Flying Snow, kill me if you have the guts. What's the point of killing them? Watching as the martial artists fell one by one and the beast turned into a pile of minced meat. Yi Qinghan's entire expression was distorted. His body was struggling violently. Both his hands were hammering and clawing at Paragon Flying Snow's face. He was roaring at the top of his lungs. It's just that Yi Qinghan's god energy had been sealed. How could he deal any damage to Paragon Flying Snow by relying on his physical strength? Have you ever thought of this day when you killed the people of my Flying Rain Island? Today, I'll let you personally witness all your subordinates getting killed. Paragon Flying Snow merely used his deity energy to form a simple barrier on the surface of his body. He did not care about Yi Qinghan's random clawing. Instead, he became incomparably excited. The more frenzied Yi Qinghan became, the more excited Paragon Flying Snow became. He brought Yi Qinghan with him as he teleported continuously before massacring Yi Qinghan's subordinates. Old dog Flying Snow, as long as this young master doesn't die, it's only a matter of time before I turn your Flying Snow Island into a river of blood. I swear. Yi Qinghan roared furiously. His voice reverberated through the entire island. His voice was filled with endless anger, endless regret, and endless loneliness. Even the god of heaven can't save you. I think it's too easy for you to be skinned alive. Don't worry, I'll advise His Highness. He won't let you die easily. He'll definitely let you suffer all kinds of torture in the world. Paragon Flying Snow did not care about the threat from Yi Qinghan at all. At this moment, many paragons were rushing over. His Highness Li Tian had already set off, and many star army were rushing over. Who could save Yi Qinghan? His Highness Li Tian had said that Misty Monarch and Madame Jiewu would not care about this matter. Even if that Mo Xiao Xiao appeared, he would only die. Escape. All of you, escape from me. Yi Qinghan continued roaring. But these soul slaves and demonic beasts seemed to have eaten a steel heart. They turned into moths, and under the flames of Paragon Flying Snow, one by one, they turned into minced meat and broken limbs on the ground. Many spatial rings floated in the air. Not a single deity crystal was left, because all the deity crystals had been crushed by Paragon Flying Snow. Today, everyone witnessed the gap between a paragon and a grade 6 or grade 7 war god. They were not on the same level. It was like a huge man wielding a saber and a child wielding a wooden stick. The blood on the ground had already formed a small river, and the nearby buildings had long since been reduced to rubble. The heart formation stone on the island had also been shattered. The barrier in the sky had dissipated, and a few dragon boats could already be seen in the distance. City Master, Wu Shan will make a move first. If you can return to the Misty Continent, help me take care of my clansmen. They are in the Shaman City. Wu Shan could feel Paragon Flying Snow appearing by his side with his divine sense. He did not escape, nor did he retaliate. Instead, he transmitted a message to Yi Qinghan. He then felt an intense pain coming from his body. A bloody hand had grabbed his back. But before that hand could grab his deity crystal, he had detonated his own deity crystal. Wu Shan's combat power was the weakest, but he was still at the peak of grade 5. Under such a powerful explosion, even Paragon Flying Snow felt slightly troubled. but it was just slightly troublesome. He brought Yi Ching Han in front of him. Then his origin energy revolved around his back, and he immediately teleported. Honk! A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. A loud explosion reverberated in the surroundings, reverberating in the star sea for a long time. Wushan! Ah! Accompanying the explosion was the hysterical roar of Yi Ching Han. Wushan was the only one present who was not his sole slave. His combat power was not high, but ever since he came from the Rain Emperor Mountain, Wushan had been taking good care of Yi Ching Han. After leaving the sealed God Valley, he had pledged his life to serve Yi Ching Han. The two of them had a deep relationship. Yi Ching Han did not only treat him as a subordinate, but also as a brother and a friend. It could be said that among so many people present, Wu Shan's death was the one that made him the most depressed and furious. Such an explosion naturally did not affect Paragon Flying Snow at all. With his origin energy protecting his body, even if a peak grade 7 exploded, it would not cause much damage to him. If not for protecting Yi Ching Han, he would be too lazy to teleport. He would just resist the explosion directly. In just a short period, Yi Ching Han had swept through the subordinates of Star Constellation, leaving behind less than a quarter of the warriors and beasts. At this moment, the remaining humans and beasts finally began to escape. They flew in all directions at lightning speed. Want to escape? None of you can escape today, Paragon Flying Snow mocked. More and more dragon boats appeared on the distant sea surface. Furthermore, there were countless warriors rushing over. There were even paragons teleporting over. Even if they were allowed to escape, where could they escape to? Paragon Flying Snow locked his target on the fastest escaping Wind Emperor. Origin energy once again condensed in his palm. He then brought along Yi Ching Han and disappeared from the sky. Venerable Flying Snow teleported and appeared behind the Wind Emperor. Then, he quickly grabbed at the Wind Emperor's waist with one hand. He knew that this person was a 7th grade war god. Just now, he had let him escape, so he used his fastest speed. He also had more origin energy in his hand than before to ensure that the Wind Emperor could not escape this time. Wind Emperor, be careful. Old dog Flying Snow, this young master will tear you apart. Yi Ching Han's eyes were filled with terror. His body twisted even more violently. He used both his hands and feet to hit and kick Paragon Flying Snow. But Paragon Flying Snow had deity energy protecting him. With this bit of strength, Yi Ching Han could not even tear off a corner of Paragon Flying Snow's clothes. Wind Emperor could not escape. Actually, he had never thought of escaping. His body suddenly turned around. He then revealed a mocking smile towards Paragon Flying Snow. The ancient halberd in his hand fiercely chopped down on Paragon Flying Snow's head. He did not care. That fatal claw of Paragon Flying Snow had actually chosen to perish together with his opponent. Fool! Go and die! Paragon Flying Snow did not move. The mocking look on his face was even more obvious than that of Wind Emperor. This little martial artist actually wanted to perish together with him? His brain must have been fried. Paragon Flying Snow did not move the origin energy in his hand. Instead, he revolved the remaining origin energy in his body around his head. With the origin energy protecting his body, even if Wind Emperor's ancient halberd was a transcendent deity weapon, it could not damage his head. Wind Emperor's ancient halberd did not slow down. The mocking look on the corner of his mouth became more intense. His eyes did not look at Paragon Flying Snow. Instead, he turned to Yi Ching Han and transmitted, "Master, I'll be leaving first. If you step onto the peak in the future, please help me take care of the Sky Awakening Continent and my clansmen." Chapter 895. The ancient halberd of Wind Emperor was naturally not a transcendent deity weapon. Hence, when it struck the head of Paragon Flying Snow, it merely let out a crisp sound. Paragon Flying Snow's hand easily pierced through his abdomen before grabbing that deity crystal. With a light pinch, it immediately exploded. But at the moment before Wind Emperor died, he suddenly laughed. His laughter was very strange, and it gave Paragon Flying Snow goosebumps. He laughed until his back felt cold. Not right. Paragon Flying Snow's eyes widened abruptly. Why would his back suddenly feel cold? At that moment, an intense feeling of danger surged in his heart. He was familiar with this feeling. That was a sign that would only appear when one was facing a life-threatening danger. But why? His divine sense could clearly sense that there was no one nearby. There were no paragons, and there were no spatial ripples. But in the next second, he knew where the danger came from. Because the hand of Yi Qinghan that was constantly hammering him had already entered his abdomen and was grabbing towards his deity crystal. Yi Qinghan, you dare! Paragon Flying Snow's expression turned snow-white. It was whiter than his hair. The other paragons, and Li Tian had heard of the rumor that Yi Qinghan could kill a 7th-grade war god. Because there was a lucky survivor who said that he personally witnessed Yi Qinghan killing a 7th-grade war god. But they scoffed at this, thinking that it was a martial artist who had been scared silly, because they did not believe that a god king could have the combat power to fight against a 7th-grade war god. Especially when he sealed his deity crystal. He was absolutely sure that the other party only had the combat power of a god king. He was completely relieved. So, what if this god king was a freak? Wasn't he just a minor god king? But at this moment, he completely understood that this god king was not just a freak. He was also heaven-defying, because he could clearly sense that the hand that reached into his abdomen had the same white stream as him. Origin energy. He did not know where Yi Qinghan got his origin energy. He only knew that more than half of his origin energy was revolving around his hand, and a small portion was protecting his head. His deity crystal was not protected by any origin energy at all. Kacha! A clear sound could be heard. The eyeballs of Paragon Flying Snow bulged out. The rapidly revolving origin source energy was forced to stop halfway. Paragon Flying Snow felt his vision turning dark. After that, the world in front of him turned black and white. I was careless and arrogant. You've paid a heavy price, and now you're careless. So, you should also pay an even heavier price. Yi Qinghan looked at the eyes of Paragon Flying Snow, who died with remaining grievance. He coldly said, his expression was incomparably calm. They were not excited about killing a venerable one in a sneak attack, nor did they feel proud of their perfect plan, their beautiful acting, and the fact that they managed to kill a venerable one with their own strength. Because if it wasn't for his arrogance, Wu Shan wouldn't have died. The Wind Emperor wouldn't have died. More than 30 soul slaves and more than half of the demonic beasts wouldn't have died. Everything that happened today was within his expectations, especially the carelessness of Paragon Flying Snow that gave him an opportunity. That was why he instantly formulated a plan. This plan involved everyone, including Yi Qinghan's furious shouts and powerless fighting. Wind Emperor and the others were fearless at the start, and they were escaping at the end. Even the final attack from Wind Emperor was instructed by Yi Qinghan. His deity energy had been sealed, but the origin source energy in Yi Qinghan's mind wasn't. In the profound spirit cavern dwelling, his deity energy was similarly suppressed, but he still relied on his origin source energy to kill that void, gouging beast. Actually, when Yi Qinghan self-detonated at Wu Shan, he had already activated his origin source energy. But he did not act because he was not sure if Paragon Flying Snow had the origin source energy to protect his deity crystal. At the final moment, he had no other choice. He could only sacrifice Wind Emperor. In reality, Yi Qinghan gambled correctly. Paragon Flying Snow was careless. That was why he died in the end. Xiao! Those soul slaves and beasts that were escaping immediately turned around the moment Paragon Flying Snow died. They flew towards Yi Qinghan at their maximum speed. Paragon Flying Snow was dead, but the danger had not been resolved. The distant dragon boat was getting closer, and paragons could teleport over at any time. They had to remove the seal on Yi Qinghan's deity crystal in the shortest time possible. More than 10 grade 6 war gods poured their purest deity energy into Yi Qinghan's body. Paragon Flying Snow's deity energy seal might be overbearing, but he did not seal too much. In just an instant, the deity energy seal was removed. Go! Yi Qinghan roared. He grabbed the corpse of Paragon Flying Snow and his spatial ring. At the same time, he kept the corpse of Wind Emperor and the soul slaves and beasts. As for the corpses on the island, he did not have the time to collect them. He immediately rushed towards a distance. Halfway through his journey, his figure disappeared in the sky. The entire battle happened in the blink of an eye. From the moment Paragon Flying Snow appeared to the moment Yi Qinghan ambushed and killed Paragon Flying Snow, only a few minutes had passed. Even though the nearby patrolling star army had rushed over, even the Paragons hiding 500,000 kilometers away had begun teleporting. But no matter how close they were, no matter how fast the dragon boat was, it would still take time. No matter how fast teleportation was, this was the Star Sea. Who dared to teleport too far away? The 7 or 8 dragon boats that rushed over had even seen Paragon Flying Snow fighting with someone. But similarly, they saw a scene that shocked them to the core. They did not dare believe it. Paragon Flying Snow had suddenly died, and then Yi Qinghan disappeared right in front of their eyes. The Star Army came very quickly, but before they could surround him, Yi Qinghan had easily escaped far away. Tens of thousands of kilometers away from this place, many war chariots flew over at high speed. In front of the war chariots, there were many huge flaming lions. It made the Star Army and the dragon boats tremble deep in their souls. At the same time, they looked at the war chariots in the sky. Their eyes were filled with respect. This was the war chariot of His Highness. Suddenly, the war chariot in the middle turned into smithereens. The flaming lions pulling the chariot also stopped. Iron shards fell down, and 6 martial artists floated in the sky. Shio! All the war chariots stopped. Many martial artists wearing the war god robe appeared from the war chariots. They surrounded the 6 martial artists and investigated the surroundings. They thought that someone had attacked the war chariots. But there was one point that left them incomparably shocked. There was a mystical seal within the war chariot that even paragons would have a hard time breaking through. How did this war chariot explode? Yi Qinghan! Yi Qinghan! Yi Qinghan! There was a handsome prince in the middle of the crowd. At this moment, his expression had become incomparably savage. He looked up and roared. His entire body was filled with a violent rage. This rage could even be felt by the martial artists below the dragon boats. The war chariot wasn't destroyed by an attack. Instead, it was destroyed from the inside by His Highness Li Tian. Everyone understood. But what they did not understand was what that Yi Qinghan had done. Why did he make His Highness, who had become very steady recently, so mad? Not many days later, many people understood why His Highness was so mad. His Highness Li Tian had spent a few months and used countless resources and manpower to cast a huge net, inviting Yi Qinghan to fall into the trap. Yi Qinghan had indeed fallen into the trap in the end. It's just that he had killed a famous paragon in the Star Sea, Paragon Flying Snow, before leaving elegantly. The entire Star Sea was shaken once again. Not long later, the entire divine realm was shaken too. The martial artists of Floating Mist Continent had all gone mad with joy. This matter had even alarmed a few monarchs. They ordered for an investigation of the specific situation that day. As for the specific situation, it did not take long for many super clans and monarchs to understand clearly. Many memory god insects near the island had clearly recorded what happened. But many people had repeatedly examined the scene, yet they could not understand how Yi Qinghan had killed Paragon Flying Snow. This caused countless supreme beings in the god world to be moved. Yi Qinghan did not know what happened in the Star Sea and the Divine Realm Continent. At this moment, he did not want to know either. After 8 months of arduous escape, he turned to the North Sea. Then he killed a small team of Star Army in the North Sea. Then he stealthily returned from the coastal sea of Floating Mist Continent to a place, the Lily Cavern Dwelling. The continuous travel had made his body very tired, but his heart was even more tired. His expression was incomparably desolate. When Yin saw this person in front of her, she thought that she had recognized the wrong person. His beard was unshaven, and his face was filled with dispiritedness. That frivolous, calm, and confident Yi Qinghan had disappeared. What appeared was a beggar like Yi Qinghan. Chapter 896. All the details of the battle between Yi Qinghan and Paragon Flying Snow were recorded by the nearby memory god insects. Starseed did not control the circulation of these images. Paragon was killed by Yi Qinghan. This matter could not be concealed. Starseed also hoped to let the Supremes of the deity world study it and see if they could figure out how Yi Qinghan killed Paragon Flying Snow. Paragon, the name Supremes meant that a Grade 5 war god would officially step on the path of an expert. A Grade 6 or Grade 7 would reach the minor peak of the martial artist realm and could be called a Supremes. But once they reached Grade 8, they would turn from a chicken to a phoenix, becoming a Supremes. From Supremes of God Emperors and Supremes of Refiners, it could be seen that the deity world placed great importance on the word Supremes. It represented the highest realm of a martial artist. A Grade 9 unparalleled war god was the peak of the deity world. That was a supreme existence. But how many Grade 9 unparalleled war gods were there? 2 hands were not enough. Furthermore, a Grade 9 unparalleled war god would usually not interfere in the battles of the deity world unless they provoked him. A Grade 9 was a supreme existence. Basically, martial artists below the God Emperor level were not qualified to know of such an existence. Even among the lower-level martial artists, they had become legendary existences. Hence, paragons were the peak existences among the lower-level martial artists. But this time, a god king, a common and small martial artist in the deity world, had broken the hierarchy of the deity world and the concept of the martial artists on the continent. Not only did he kill a venerable, but he also killed a venerable by countless levels. This matter was even more shocking than the death of Paragon Flying Snow. If every god king could kill a paragon, they could kill Grade 6 or 7 war gods. Then was the ranking system of this world still useful? Was the ranking system of the War God Pavilion still useful? Was there a need for everyone to cultivate? This matter had caused many martial artists to doubt if the current direction of cultivation was correct. Hence, the height of this matter had reached a level where the cultivation system of martial artists was overturned. Supreme Island was still sealed, but Paragon Li Kong had urgently gathered all the paragons on the island to discuss this matter. Across the 6 continents, countless paragons and even 2 sovereigns had sent messages to express their concern. Countless images were replicated and circulated in the main cities of the various clans. After several months of research, everyone came to a conclusion. Yi Qinghan was still at the God King realm. Furthermore, he did not kill Paragon Flying Snow with his soul skill or his monstrous combat power. Rather, it was a treasure. Those who had studied the painting knew very well that Yi Qinghan was the mastermind behind this murder. Ever since Paragon Flying Snow appeared, everything that happened to Yi Qinghan was actually arranged by him. Although there was no sound on the screen, the last sentence Yi Qinghan said could be easily deduced by the martial artist from the movement of his lips. I was careless and arrogant. You've paid a heavy price, and now you're careless. So, you should also pay an even heavier price. These words clearly indicated that all of Yi Qinghan's actions were premeditated. He relied on his intelligence to create an opportunity for Paragon Flying Snow to use all his origin energy without the protection of the deity crystal. The painting clearly showed that Yi Qinghan had used a single hand to grab Paragon Flying Snow. Paragon Flying Snow died, yet no deity crystal floated out. This meant that Yi Qinghan had crushed his deity crystal before killing him. But Yi Qinghan's deity crystal was still sealed. How could he break through the protection of Paragon Flying Snow and crush his deity crystal? The scene of a group of soul slaves removing the seal was also clearly recorded. Yi Qinghan's deity energy had indeed been sealed. It's just that after Yi Qinghan destroyed the deity crystal, he had kept his origin energy. Hence, nobody knew how he did it. In addition to the rumor of Yi Qinghan killing a 7th grade war god, all the researchers could only conclude that there was a treasure on Yi Qinghan. There was a heaven-defying treasure, a treasure that could allow a god king to kill a venerable. Even if Paragon Flying Snow used all his origin energy to protect his head and hands, he was still a paragon. Even if a venerable didn't use his origin energy, his divine power was extremely strong. Even if an ordinary emperor god were to launch a sneak attack on him, it would be difficult to kill him. How could you crush the divine crystal with such strong divine power? This answer was acknowledged by many. It also made many experts go crazy. Supreme treasures belonged to the virtuous. If a powerful supreme expert possessed it, then there was nothing wrong with it. However, what right did a little divine king have to possess it? Furthermore, Yi Qinghan was hated by everyone in the Star Sea. Even if he was killed, nothing would happen. Hence, other than the paragons and experts of the Misty Continent, countless experts and paragons from the 5 continents began rushing towards the Star Sea. Many hidden experts also moved out stealthily. Although Yi Qinghan could kill paragons, it was true that he was caught by flying snow in the beginning. All the experts were clear that Yi Qinghan did not have the ability to fight with experts head-on. As long as he did not sneak attack, he could easily kill him. The Star Sea surged again. This was beyond the expectations of Li Tian and Li Kong. They did not care about the arrival of these people. Instead, they offered a reward. A transcendent-grade god tool and countless treasures drove the experts of the Star Sea even more crazy. On the other hand, the countless martial artists of the Misty Continent were in high spirits. Yi Qinghan had made them proud. If the destruction of the Flame Dragon City was a slap to the continent, then Yi Qinghan's actions were a deep stab to the Star Sea. This time, Yi Qinghan had stabbed the Sea of Stars with a knife. A slap to the face was painful, but a stab to the face was extremely painful. Soul-devouring city, on that beautiful balcony. Lord, you don't seem very happy. Little Han did a great job this time. Madame Zhou's face was full of excitement after receiving the exact news. Lord Devour had a high status. She did not need to collect this information. Countless people would automatically send detailed information to her. The information had to go through Madame Zhou's hands. However, after Madame Zhou told Lord Devour the news, she saw that Lord Devour was no longer calm. Instead, he frowned slightly. Lord Devour's willow-like eyebrows furrowed slightly. He said faintly, he was too proud, so he almost died this time. Fortunately, he met that idiot Flying Snow. With the power of origin, so many people sacrificed their lives to cooperate with him. If a sneak attack couldn't kill an idiot, then he would be an idiot too. What's there to be happy about? Madame Zhou nodded and said with a smile, Lord, are you worried about him? Don't worry. He will definitely become more mature after this lesson. Didn't you hear his last sentence? I think the next time Little Han comes out, the entire Star Sea will be scared out of their wits. What do you know? If Yi Qinghan doesn't have the power of origin, he's nothing. Even if he becomes more mature and calmer, he won't make any mistakes. However, after this painful lesson, will the people of the Star Sea become calmer and more cautious? Lord Devour stood up, his eyes cold. Moreover, what I'm worried about the most is that with this strange invisibility technique and the power of origin, he will rely on them too much. He will forget the true meaning of cultivation, putting the cart before the horse. On the path of cultivation, the principle is the king. The others are all wrong. Only understanding the principle of heaven and earth, taking the power of heaven and earth, and borrowing the power of heaven and earth, is the king's way. If he keeps relying on this and doesn't want to improve, he will die eventually. Chapter 897. Madame Zhou pondered for a while and understood. Her face changed dramatically. She knew Yi Qinghan's temper very well. Since Yi Qinghan had stated that he wanted to kill 100 million people or His Highness Li Tian, then if he didn't achieve this goal, he wouldn't come back and would never leave the Starry Sea. However, the situation was getting more and more complicated. There were more and more experts. If Yi Qinghan used his origin power to fight with his stealth technique, his enemies would find his weakness sooner or later, and he would die. If a person had a submachine gun, would he use his weak martial arts to kill his enemies? It was a habit, and it couldn't be changed with just 1 or 2 sentences. Yi Qinghan had used his origin power and his stealth technique to fight for so many years. His battle plan was based on these two things. You want him to abandon these two things and use his weak soul skills and principles to fight? If he thought these soul skills and principles were weak, he wouldn't be interested in studying them or comprehending them. If his strength didn't improve, he could only use these things to fight. If he took risks, he would be besieged by so many experts and fall. Madame Gio wasn't stupid. After following Lord Devour for so many years, she had a broad vision. Her way of thinking was also influenced by Lord Devour. After thinking it through, she said anxiously, Lord, you can't just ignore him. If Xiaohan dies, how will you face Xiaohe and Yu Qingqing? Don't you need Yi Qinghan to take revenge for you? You have to think of a way. It's not that I don't want to help him. I can't help him with this. Lord Devour sighed deeply. She slowly walked to the pavilion in the corner of the rooftop and waved her hand to open the protective cover. Her red robe fluttered in the humid sea breeze. After a while, she said, I can't help him. Moreover, I don't dare to do anything in this star. If Yi Qinghan doesn't accomplish his goal, he won't come back even if I ask him to. As for the path of cultivation, it was all about the heart. Yi Qinghan already had a complete and mature mind. Moreover, he had a stubborn temper. It was not possible to change his mind with just a few words. Given his temperament, it was even more impossible for him to cultivate in seclusion for hundreds of thousands of years. If you want to change his way of thinking, the only way is for him to comprehend it himself. Madame Gio shivered. She understood that Lord Devour was telling the truth. She said bitterly, Is there really no solution? Can we only watch him walk towards death step by step? There's a way. After keeping silent for a while, Lord Devour opened his mouth, which made Lord Gio's eyes brighten. Lord Devour turned around and said faintly, Let him stay in the Soul Emperor Pavilion for 5 years. Soul Emperor Pavilion? Lord Gio said in astonishment. Didn't the Soul Emperor Pavilion just open a few years ago? We have to wait for another 10,000 years. With Little Han's temperament, he won't just cultivate in seclusion for 10,000 years. Lord Devour waved his hand. His eyes showed a trace of reminiscence, as if he was thinking of an old friend. He said, No need. Yi Qinghan has something that he can break the rules to get in. Moreover, there's a way to fix this thing. In the Soul Emperor Pavilion, there's a woman that Yi Qinghan has been thinking about for a long time. Yi Qinghan might not listen to me, but that woman has a way to help Yi Qinghan walk on the right path. Lord, you mean the soul ring? Madame Gio asked tentatively. She didn't know who the woman Lord Devour was talking about was. However, she knew that besides Xiaohe, the only thing that Yi Qinghan had to do with the Soul Emperor was the soul ring. Yes. Lord Devour nodded faintly, but his brows didn't loosen. He said, The Soul Emperor left the soul ring in the God-slaying mountain on purpose. Since the Soul Emperor is from the Flame Dragon Plain, he hoped that someone from the Flame Dragon Continent could get this lucky chance. The Soul Emperor Pavilion is a good place to train him. Inside, his invisibility technique will lose its effect, and he can't use any restrictions inside. He doesn't dare to use the power of the origin, or the Soul Emperor Pavilion will explode. He can only use his soul skills and principles to fight. Madame Gio was delighted. She said happily, That's good. It's a good idea. Don't celebrate too early. Lord Devour sneered. If he uses the soul ring to open the door of the Soul Emperor Pavilion will be open for 3 months. Anyone can enter even without a divine sword. This is the Soul Emperor's test for his successor. Although only lower 5th grade war gods can enter, with Yi Qinghan's strength, it's not enough to enter. If he can't break through, he'll also die. Ah! Madame Gio's jaw dropped, her face full of shock. Lord, why did you let him in? If he can't figure out this problem, he won't have the patience to cultivate and comprehend. Since he'll die sooner or later, it's better to die earlier. Lord Devour's face regained its calmness, and his voice no longer fluctuated. He waved his hand, and a figure appeared on the rooftop. It was Mo Xiao in a green robe. Lord Devour said casually, Send a message to Yi Qinghan. Tell him that his soul ring can enter the Soul Emperor Island. Whether he wants to go in or stay outside, it's up to him. The message was sent quickly, but Yi Qinghan didn't reply. It wasn't because he couldn't receive messages from the Lily Cave Mansion, but because Yi Qinghan didn't care about the messaging jade talisman. Even at this moment, he didn't care about anything. Ling was sitting in the small hall, her beautiful eyes gazing at a small room next to hers. Her eyes sparkled with a complicated look. Yi Qinghan had stayed in this room for 1 whole month. When Yi Qinghan sent him a message, she really didn't dare to believe that the person standing in front of her was the incomparably domineering Yi Qinghan who dared to slap her on the hidden island. It was the Yi Qinghan who didn't even bat an eyelid when facing thousands of experts in Flame Dragon City. It was the Yi Qinghan who even dared to snatch the Peach Blossom Venerable's daughter on the Peach Blossom Island. She didn't know what kind of blow Yi Qinghan had suffered. She only knew that Yi Qinghan was dispirited, lonely, and pitiful. After Yi Qinghan entered the Lily Cave Mansion, he settled the remaining 10 soul slaves and 20 demonic beasts, then went into this room alone. Ling, of course, knew that Yi Qinghan didn't go into seclusion to cultivate. Instead, he went inside to lie down alone, like a wounded lone wolf, silently licking his wounds and healing himself. After waiting for a few days, she returned to the Rain Butterfly Island and learned what had happened. She was once again shocked by Yi Qinghan. At the same time, she also knew the reason why Yi Qinghan was so lonely. He blamed himself for the deaths of Wind Emperor Wu Shan and the others. He blamed himself for his arrogance, carelessness, and complacency, which led to the deaths of so many people. Ling had very complicated feelings towards Yi Qinghan. Throughout her life, she had only thought that there was one true man in this world, the Hidden Island Master. But today, there was one more person in her heart. Yi Qinghan had beaten her before. She hated him, and killing Yi Qinghan was her goal. After going to the Divine Realm and staying in the Rain Butterfly Island for a few decades, this hatred had faded. But later on, she met Yi Qinghan. She originally wanted to take revenge, but she was stunned by Yi Qinghan's strength, and also his legendary story. When she saw Yi Qinghan killing Paragon Flying Snow, not only did he not feel happy or proud, but he even blamed himself for the deaths of his subordinates. Her heart was deeply moved. Her heart was deeply touched, and her feelings for Yi Qinghan became even more complicated. This man was so special, so dazzling, so loyal, so pitiful. After drinking the blood-red wine in her hand, Ling stood up and walked towards that room. Even though Yi Qinghan had closed the protective barrier of the room, the restrictions of the Lily Cave Mansion were in her hands. If she wanted to enter, she could. Chapter 898. She didn't know what to do inside. She also knew that with her relationship with Yi Qinghan, it wasn't the right time to go in. However, she still inexplicably moved her beautiful legs and walked in. The light inside the room was very dim. She knew that this was Yi Qinghan's control. There weren't any furnishings in the room, only a large white jade bed. Under the dim light, a figure was leaning against the corner of the bed and the wall. One leg was bent while the other was casually placed. His head was slightly lowered and his black hair fell down. It wasn't tidied up and was a bit messy. His chin had a long beard and his eyelids were drooping. He didn't even look up when Ling walked in. Yi Qinghan was very calm. His face didn't show any emotion and his body didn't release any aura. However, Ling felt her body tremble. She only glanced over and a decadent, lonely aura emitted from Yi Qinghan's bones. This man was really injured. Martial artists paid great attention to their appearance. Unless they liked to flatter, no god realm martial artist would keep a beard. They only needed to use their divine power to clean it. However, Yi Qinghan didn't even have time to tidy it up. Ling leaned against the door with a faint smile on her face. She opened her mouth and said, "Young noble Yi, are you trying to seduce me with that melancholic pose of yours?" Silence. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but remain silent. His body didn't move at all, as if he was in a deep sleep. "Oh, young noble Yi has become so awesome recently. You even dare to ignore your master? Are you planning to defy the heavens? Didn't get angry and continued to smile. She even used the witty words that Yi Qinghan had said to Yu Qingxing in the past, hoping to attract Yi Qinghan's attention. However, Yi Qinghan still didn't move. He was like a rotten piece of wood standing there. Finally became angry. She put down her arrogance and came to console Yi Qinghan, but she never expected to receive such a result. Even a saint would get angry, let alone someone with an explosive temper like her. Pointing at Yi Qinghan, he raged, "Yi Qinghan, are you still a man? Why don't you go and die? A little blow like this is enough to make you like this. Yu Qingxing and the others must have been blind to marry a trash like you." "Shut up." Yi Qinghan finally moved. He raised his head and shouted angrily. His eyes seethed with rage, and his expression was gloomy. He seemed like a lion that had its tail stepped on. "Ah!" Er's eyes widened in disbelief. Yi Qinghan was living and eating at her place. If it wasn't the Lily Cave mansion, would Yi Qinghan be living so comfortably? She was trying to comfort him out of goodwill, but he still dared to yell at her. Was this person really going to defy the heavens? Anger rose from the bottom of her heart, and she became bold. A dagger suddenly appeared in her hand. Her body flashed, and she fiercely slashed at Yi Qinghan's crotch. Didn't know any sea-drain battle technique. She only learned one move on the Rain Butterfly Island, but this move was enough to make the young masters of the Rain Butterfly Island tremble in fear. As long as was provoked, she would definitely take out her little dagger and cut off the thing down there, including the skin and the egg. The dagger was very fast, and there was a faint air-piercing sound. The Divine King Realm cultivation wasn't something to be trifled with. Yi Qinghan's eyes suddenly widened, and his dispirited expression instantly disappeared. He was very clear about Er's temper. Last time, she was almost castrated. Although he knew that divine crystals could be condensed, which man didn't care about his own life. He quickly shrunk his body and rolled to the side. Although his overall strength wasn't a match for 10,000 Er's sudden attack, and Yi Qinghan's indescribable mood made his reaction a bit slower. The dagger ruthlessly slid down his thigh, leaving a long and deep trail of blood. It went from his thigh to his calf, and in some places, white bone could be seen. "Crazy woman, I'll son your mother." Yi Qinghan didn't think that would be so heavy-handed. He immediately revealed a murderous expression and cursed. Was also stunned. She looked at Yi Qinghan's thigh that was spurting blood, and she couldn't help but feel regret when she thought about the reason she came here today. Yi Qinghan was recuperating, but he had given him an extra cut. However, when she saw Yi Qinghan's fiendish expression, became angry again. Her temper was like this, and after knowing that she was the princess of the Rain Butterfly clan, her temper became even worse. She immediately cursed, "Bastard, this young lady, son you." Didn't know what Yi Qinghan meant by son, but she was sure that it was a curse. In a moment of desperation, she followed up Yi Qinghan's words and cursed. "Son me?" Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes. The pain in his thigh had already faded, and the soul ring and the divine crystal were able to heal it. The bleeding quickly stopped, but his heart was still bleeding. After a month of healing, the wound in his heart was almost healed. He was slowly regaining his confidence and fighting spirit, but Er's disturbance had ignited the hidden anger in his heart. Although he knew that was here to comfort him, his stubborn temper flared up, and he didn't care about anything else. "If you want to son me, then come at me. This young master will accompany you to the end. Today, let's see if you will beat me to the ground, or if this young master will cripple you." Yi Qinghan reached out and easily grabbed Er's hand. Then, he flung the dagger away. With a forceful pull, was pulled over. His other hand tightly wrapped around Er's waist as he pressed her against his chest. Then, he forcefully pressed his mouth against the dazed Er's jade-like lips. Was dizzy. Looking at Yi Qinghan's previous situation, it looked like he wanted to kill her. How did the situation suddenly reverse? How did he take advantage of her? Yi Qinghan's groan was particularly wild and rough. The wild and masculine aura on his body made Yin dizzy once again. Yi Qinghan's kiss was very rough. His powerful tongue directly penetrated Yinling's pearly white teeth and wandered inside, chasing after Yinling's fragrant tongue. He greedily sucked the nectar from her small mouth, and his hands didn't stop moving. One of his hands wandered back and forth between the two voluptuous peaks, especially the two pink grapes, constantly playing with them. His other hand slid down and reached into the peach garden. He found that beautiful stream and gently plucked at it. Boom! Yi Qinghan's flirting technique was superb. At least it was very advanced in this world. Yin had made love with many women, but it was just kissing and teasing. However, she had never been toyed with like this by a man. Therefore, her body instantly went limp, and the water in the stream started to trickle. Yi Qinghan was very wild. It could even be said that he roughly tore apart Yinling's leather clothes. The two breasts that could scare people to death bounced out. Yi Qinghan's eyes instantly turned red. His other hand directly tore apart her leather skirt, revealing a perfect body. When Yi Qinghan saw the white liquid coming out from the beautiful pink fungus below Yinling, he couldn't bear it anymore. He arched his body and let out a hoarse roar. His clothes instantly burst apart, and he jumped on the horse with his spear in hand, galloping to his heart's content. Yi Qinghan, what are you doing? I your father. When Yinling's body was penetrated by a strange object, she finally sobered up a bit. She wriggled her body and wanted to break free, but she was firmly held by Yi Qinghan. At this moment, her body had gone limp. How could she fight against the ferocious and wolf-like Yi Qinghan? Then, under Yi Qinghan's violent assault, her cursing gradually faded and finally turned into an incomparably ecstatic moan. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.